Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Sign in Naruto. Make you stronger, not let you destroy the ninja world. Chapter 21. After Shiranui Genma sat down, he looked amazed. Yazama, you are really going further and further away, making it impossible for us to catch up with you. They were so similar that Yamashiro Aoba and others couldn't help but nod. Ebisu was even more fortunate. Fortunately, he recognized him and apologized quickly. Otherwise, with his current identity, killing him would not be as easy as crushing an insect. Kakashi, you are the only one who has this hope now. Shiranui Genma looked at Kakashi aside and said with high hopes. By the way, Yi Jian, Captain Yi Shan didn't have time to come, so he asked me to bring you congratulations. I hope you won't be offended. Kakashi did not respond to Shiranui Genma, but instead brought Baiyun Yeshin's congratulations. No, it's too late to be grateful, so how can I be surprised? Yi Jian waved his hands, glanced at everyone and said, you are young, don't be discouraged. Everyone, I am just exploring the road ahead. You just keep working hard and move forward. As long as you don't give up, the day will come when you will shine. Chicken soup is free anyway, so Yi Jian can drink it as much as he wants. Yes, the secret of youth lies in hard work. Yi Jian, you really understand youth. Metkai gave Yi Jian a thumbs up, showing his shining white teeth and praised with tears on his face. If Yi Jian hadn't stopped him, he might have pounced on him. The day you shine. Yi Jian's words made everyone fall into deep thought, and Kakashi couldn't help but clenched his fists and thought to himself, is it in this war? I caught up with a few people for an hour or two and had a happy meal together. It was already noon. Just when he was walking through a certain alley, Yi Jian's originally happy face suddenly became extremely sharp, and he shouted at the end of the alley behind him. Ho ho! A burst of horrifying low laughter sounded, like poisonous snakes crawling up the body, and a pale-skinned man wearing Magatama earrings appeared in Yi Jian's sight. Seeing this man, the hair all over Yi Jian's body suddenly stood up, and his pupils shrank to the extreme. Orochimaru. Yi Jian felt extremely uncomfortable. The two people he least wanted to meet in Konoha met one here. After all, you came back from fighting on the front line. Your senses are very sharp. Apart from Jiraiya and the others, you are the first one to discover me so quickly. Orochimaru said appreciatively, and Yi Jian smiled when he heard this, that's really my honor. Secretly, he tensed up. If Orochimaru goes against him, even though he is no match for him now, Orochimaru can't catch him easily. Orochimaru at this moment is far less powerful than when Konoha collapsed the plan in the original work. Don't be so vigilant. Don't worry, I have no ill intentions towards you. Orochimaru looked at Hajima's vigilance and licked his lips. With medical technology of your level, I wonder if you would be interested in studying the topic of immortality with me. If it were another ninja, Orochimaru might consider using force to force him to join him. But the Yi Jian in front of him was different, his identity was unusual. If you touch him, it will definitely cause an uproar. The most important thing is that he is not sure that he can definitely catch Yi Jian. Yi Jian's speed is too fast. Sorry, not interested. Just kidding, immortality is obviously a taboo experiment on the human body. He did this kind of thing because his head was squeezed by the door. That's a pity. Orochimaru glanced at Yi Jian. Of course, if you change your mind in the future, you can come to me, ho ho, I will always be waiting for you. For different talents, different methods should be used. He is not like Danzo, who can coerce and lure any talent. That's low end. After confirming that Orochimaru had really left, Hajime still did not completely relax his vigilance. It wasn't until he entered the main street and was surrounded by people that he breathed a sigh of relief. Strength is indeed the basis of everything. Yi Jian clenched his fists. If he was not strong enough today, Orochimaru might have already attacked him. He could clearly see the strong desire to take action in Orochimaru's eyes. He knew that if Orochimaru hadn't been worried about his speed and wasn't sure of being able to subdue him with one blow, he would have definitely made a move just now, and how could he be so polite? Only by becoming stronger can we be fearless of any danger. Orochimaru can come alone today. What if Danzo and Orochimaru come together next time? He may not always have such good luck as today. It would be great if I could get the 100 Heroes technique by signing in tomorrow. In this case, even if Orochimaru and Danzo join forces, I will have the capital to deal with it. Among the rewards he got from signing into the medical team today, the one that surprised him the most was the Yin Seal. With his physique, the amount of chakra stored is definitely considerable. If you can get the release method of Baihao's technique, the power of the burst will definitely not be worse than the first 6 of the 8 doors Dunjia. By then, among all Konoha, the only person who could surpass him in speed was Namikaze Minato. Go back and study the thunder escape and sword skills that the 3rd generation gave me. Today's experience suddenly filled him with a sense of crisis. He was far from the point where he could relax. Hey, Yi Jian boy, I finally found you. At this time, Jiraiya's voice came. He saw Jiraiya waving his hand and walking closer. He suddenly saw something wrong with Yi Jian's face, and he couldn't help asking in a deep voice, "What's going on?" Yi Jian waved his hand. "It's okay, I met a troublesome person, but he didn't do anything to me." Jiraiya immediately stared. "Who? Danzo? No, that old guy wouldn't make you look like this." "Wait, Orochimaru." Yi Jian neither admitted nor denied. "Brother Jiraiya, didn't you say you wanted to introduce me to an interesting person? Are you taking me there?" Hearing this, Jiraiya patted him on the shoulder. "Yes, I'm looking for you precisely because of this matter." After a pause, he said, "Now you know how dangerous Konoha is." Yi Jian nodded, but his eyes were burning with a strong desire to become stronger. "Next time, I won't be so powerless." Jiraiya nodded when he heard this. "Since you know what to do, I won't do anything unnecessary. Let's take you to meet your great nephew." Hearing this, Yi Jian couldn't help but rub his nose. "It seems that I accidentally took advantage of others." The 7th training ground. "Hey, Minato, I brought you the person you wanted to see." From a distance, Yi Jian saw Namikaze Minato with blonde hair in the distance. The next moment, Yi Jian felt a golden light flash before his eyes, and he appeared in front of him. So fast. Yi Jian was surprised, even he couldn't be so fast. After all, it is Flying Thunder God, the #1 speed jutsu in the ninja world. "I've seen Uncle Master." Namikaze Minato greeted him very respectfully, and Hajime couldn't help but touch his nose. "You're welcome." He glanced at Jiraiya and then said to Namikaze Minato, "Let's do this. From now on, we can talk about our own affairs. I'll call you Minato-san, and you can just call me Hazama. Calling me Master is too troublesome, and it also calls me too old." Hearing this, Namikaze Minato couldn't help but be surprised, and then smiled and said, "If Jiraiya-sensei doesn't have any objections, I think it's okay. I thought that at Yi Jian's age, but having become famous at a young age, and being accepted as a disciple by 3 generations, he should be domineering, but I didn't expect that he would be so approachable." Ha ha ha, I have no objection. He knew that Yi Jian would say this. After all, he was not a person who cared about such complicated details. Namikaze Minato. "Uncle Master, if this is the case, then I will be offended." Yi Jian waved his hands, not caring at all. "If I have time, I would like to ask you about speed." "Don't bother me then." Namikaze Minato smiled brightly. "Of course, that's no problem. It just so happens that I can also learn from each other in the process." Speaking of which, Namikaze Minato suddenly became serious. "I heard that Hajime you guided Kakashi to develop an A-level lightning escape. I thought you should be quite good at this aspect." At this point, he scratched his head in embarrassment. "I also have an idea. I wonder if you have anything to give me." Hearing this, Yi Jian suddenly laughed. Isn't this a coincidence? He knows Rasengan too well. Seeing him like this, Jiraiya couldn't help but complain. "You kid hasn't even heard what Minato said about his thoughts. It's not good for you to smile so confidently." Only then did Yi Jian realize that he was too happy too early and couldn't help but scratch his head. "Sorry, I'm a little too excited. Brother Minato, please tell me what you think. Maybe I can actually have some ideas." Seeing this, Minato wasn't sure if Habarama could really give him any guidance. But since there are more people, there is one more idea, and maybe some progress can be made. So, he expressed his thoughts. "As you know, I am famous for my speed, but my current attack method is too simple, and it is more difficult to face special enemies. So I tried to develop a ninjutsu that can be released without sealing and is quite powerful. Just like the tailed beast Jade, it is made purely of chakra, so that I can fight against various enemies more easily in the future, and it will better match my fighting style. When Yi Jian heard it, he was convinced, this is the Rasengan. Jiraiya, do you have any ideas? It doesn't matter if you don't. He didn't think Yi Jian really had any ideas. He just wanted to introduce Minato to Yi Jian today. This is also the tacit approval of the third generation. But, maybe I can try it. After thinking about the Rasengan training method in his mind, under the puzzled looks of Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato, he grabbed a leaf and closed his eyes. Jiraiya couldn't help but murmur in his heart, can this kid really try it? Maybe the effect you want is like this. Chakra appeared in his hand, and then wrapped around the leaves. The chakra suddenly rotated at high speed and slowly began to compress. If he hadn't been proficient in nature changes and had extremely strong chakra control, he would never have dared to demonstrate like this. Gradually, a whistling sound was heard coming from his hand, and it slowly condensed into a small ball emitting blue fluorescence. Drink. Yi Jian suddenly opened his eyes and slapped his palm on the wooden stake next to him. Boom! The wooden pile suddenly exploded with a loud sound, sending debris flying. Even though Namikaze Minato was a genius all his life, he couldn't help but feel a little inferior at this moment, as this guy, really not, a monster. How could you directly implement what he thought as soon as you heard what he said? Even gods may not be able to do it. Jiraiya was even more stunned. He looked at Yi Jian, who turned around in disbelief. You kid really can't predict the future. I've tried it for you. Even if he witnessed what happened, he still felt so incredible. Ah, don't be too surprised. In fact, I had a similar idea, so after hearing what Brother Minato said, I was instantly inspired. Yi Jian scratched his head and said a little embarrassed. He also didn't expect that he would successfully test the Rasengan in one go. What a coincidence. If you join the Thunder Release, you might be able to get the disappearing Rasengan. He succeeded in one try, which made Yi Jian feel very good all of a sudden. I see, then what are you going to name this technique? After Jiraiya listened to Yi Jian's explanation, he felt it was more reasonable. Minato smiled when he heard this, raised his index finger and said, since it is made by high-speed rotation and compression, why not call it Flash Vibration Blue Maru Zero Type? Yi Jian couldn't help but raise his forehead when he heard the words. He knew that the answer given by the naming ghost was definitely extraordinary. Ha ha ha, obviously Yi Jian, you are not very satisfied with this name. Jiraiya couldn't help laughing when he saw this, and Hajime shook his head helplessly. Why don't we just call it Rasengan? In the future, we may be able to add various attribute chakras to it and develop new forms. This name immediately made Jiraiya's eyes light up. Okay, this name is much more concise. Minato, what do you think? Minato also nodded. It seems I will really have to ask you for more advice in the future. This way I will be more confident about my next trip to Union Village. After hearing this, Yi Jian suddenly looked at Jiraiya in surprise. The person who went to Kumogakure village to investigate the mission was actually Namikaze Minato. Seeing this, Jiraiya said, otherwise, who else do you think is suitable in the village? Yi Jian thought the same thing. Who else besides Namikaze Minato has this qualification? Looking at it this way, the people chosen by the third Hokage this time are all people who are good at speed. Is it really imminent? Thinking about it this way, Hajime looked at Namikaze Minato again. In that case, let's perfect this technique. Namikaze Minato nodded heavily. He wished he could learn this technique. Brother Jiraiya, come and give it a try. Anyway, you have so many skills that you won't be overwhelmed. If there are benefits, then of course we should share them together. Anyway, this was originally developed by Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato in the original work. He is just a fool, so I don't feel bad for him. The principle of the Rasengan is very simple, and the two of them mastered it after 1 or 2 attempts. The next step is just to control chakra. Spiral pills. Spiral pills. At the 7th training ground, the voices of 3 people rang out one after another. When it comes to who mastered it the fastest, Yi Jian can only admit that he is the man who can learn and carry forward the Flying Thunder God. Namikaze Minato was the first to achieve full control of the Rasengan. Yi Jian was 1 minute behind him. Young people are terrible. You two have mastered it so quickly. I look like you are going to laugh at me. Only Jiraiya had a look of emotion on his face. He had just felt something, and the two of them were already done. Try attribute injection. Seeing that it was not dark yet, Yi Jian said to Namaifeng Shuaman. Try it. Namikaze Minato was also very interested and felt that he could continue to explore. He saw thunder attribute aura emerging from Yi Jian's hand, and just as it gathered into a ball of light that rotated and collided at high speed, a terrifying force of resistance immediately arose. Hey, it's interesting, but it's not enough. Gather it for me. With Yi Jian's current chakra control, this resistance is not enough to affect him. Buzz. As he compressed the chakra, the Rasengan in his hand moved around like a wild horse, buzzing non-stop. Certainly, Yi Jian clenched his fingers tightly and used more strength to control the Rasengan in his hand. This caused the Rasengan in his hand to move even more violently, and an extremely explosive aura was suddenly released. Yi Jian felt like he was losing control. It's going to be bad. The Rasengan suddenly burst apart, and the terrifying aura of power made Jiraiya and Namikaze Minato's hair stand on end. Whoosh! Yi Jian threw it out directly, and something strange happened. The Rasengan disappeared. But just when Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya were both surprised, the space was slightly distorted, and a terrifying force suddenly exploded. Boom! Just like dozens of detonating symbols exploding at the same time, the violent force directly shattered the ground several meters around and threw all the rubble away. Only a large pit more than 1 meter deep like a spider web was left. That thing is so powerful. Jiraiya was extremely surprised. If this hit someone, half of his body would be knocked off. Is this the power of the Rasengan with attribute chakra added? Namikaze Minato was also extremely surprised, and couldn't help but look forward to the power of the technique he was about to complete. This power combined with his flying thunder god may not be able to withstand it even at the shadow level. By then, he will have the capital to threaten the shadow level powerhouses. The most important is, Jiraiya was surprised and doubtful. Boy Hazama, can your Rasengan still disappear midway? He was very sure that he had read it correctly just now. The Rasengan disappeared when thrown out, and then reappeared. This is so hard to guard against. If it was his first battle, he would never have thought that it could still be like this. It would be very possible for him to be maimed due to carelessness. Hehe, it seems like this. Let's see the final power after I master it. Yi Jian touched his head and smiled, thinking that original ninjutsu is not that easy after all. In my heart, I have even more admiration for the second generation Hokage, a maniac who created ninjutsu. It was so difficult for him to create a ninjutsu, but the second Hokage treated it as a joke. This is the gap. Did I really discover a monster? Jiraiya couldn't help but think this as he looked at Hajime, who was starting to experiment with ninjutsu again. I thought he could brag about discovering a genius like Namikaze Minato for the rest of his life. Now it seems that Yi Jian is even worse. Boom. Boom. With constant failure, dusk falls. Go with. Finally, the Rasengan in Yi Jian's hand was stable, but it contained an unknown amount of terrifying power that could destroy everything. Just holding it in front of him made Jiraiya's hair stand on end. The moment it flew out, it disappeared from sight with a whoosh. When he reappeared, he was already more than 10 meters away. Just like the previous failure scene, the violent force crushed everything and threw all the rubble away. Only a large deep pit full of spiral patterns was left. As expected of you, Yi Jian, you can actually throw the Rasengan. Namikaze Minato exclaimed in admiration. Unlike me, I can only deal damage close to the enemy. Hearing this, Yi Jian smiled and said, if you can throw it out, it really doesn't match your fighting style. Namikaze Minato also smiled when he heard this, and then bowed solemnly to Habarama. Thank you, without your help, I don't know when I can develop this technique. Yi Jian waved his hand. I also gained 2 powerful ninjutsu, didn't I? This is also thanks to you, brother Minato. Jiraiya couldn't help but smile when he saw this. You're good at everything, you're just too humble. Let's go. Now I really want to know what kind of shocked expression the third generation old man will have after knowing all this. There was such a big movement in their development of ninjutsu, there was no reason that the third generation couldn't notice it. Really? What, Hazama, you helped Minato develop a new ninjutsu, and you also extended it to other varieties yourself. When the third Hokage heard Jiraiya say that with the help of Habamon, a ninjutsu idea that Minato had been thinking about for a long time had directly become a reality, he almost lost his grip on the pipe in his hand. Namikaze, Minato and Hazama looked at each other when they saw this, and a blue chakra light ball appeared in each hand. There is such a powerful aura. The third Hokage was even more surprised, but when he thought that this was the initial state, he couldn't help but want to see their respective extended states. Then, the two of them were each infused with wind and thunder attributes. In an instant, the Rasengan in Namikaze Minato's hand exuded a sharp feeling, and the Rasengan in Habarama's hand exuded a manic and strange aura. The same thing is that it can make people instantly feel like they are facing a powerful enemy. The third generation himself is a strong man, so he can naturally sense how terrifying the ninjutsu in front of him is. I couldn't help but feel lucky again that such a talent was not snatched away by Danzo. He calmed down, but his smoking hand was still trembling. He looked at Yi Jian with a strange look and said, "You kid will probably never teach others again, and then develop a ninjutsu that surprises me. I feel like you are more of a ninjutsu professor than me." This made Yi Jian couldn't help but touch his nose and said helplessly, "Hokage-sama, it's an accident." "It's really an accident. It's just that inspiration came suddenly. Look at how I look like I can guide others." The third Hokage smiled when he heard this, and sighed noncommittally, "I'm starting to feel lucky. Fortunately, Jiraiya discovered you. Otherwise, wouldn't you be buried among the medical ninjas?" Jiraiya immediately laughed when he heard this. "That's right, old man, even if you don't know who taught me, you must still have such a vision." The third Hokage laughed and scolded, "Still as naughty as when I was a kid." Then he looked at Namikaze, Minato and Hazama. "Okay, you two have these two ninjutsu bonuses, I will feel more confident about your mission this time. Ninjutsu was developed by you, and it should belong to you. Pay attention to safety on the road. Tomorrow is the day the two of them leave," so he said this. "Thank you, Hokage-sama, for your concern." Habarama and Minato spoke at the same time, then retreated. Root organization. Asshole. Naturally, Shimura Danzo also heard about Habarama helping Namikaze Minato develop a powerful ninjutsu. I couldn't help but feel even more annoyed, wondering why I couldn't snatch him away quickly in the first place. Maybe Yi Jian also helped him speed up the progress of human experiments. Why can't I get such a talent? Danzo Shimura's teeth were about to break, and then he suddenly had a crazy idea. In this case, then neither of us can even think of getting Noragama. Sarutobi, you forced me to do this. In the leaf room. He opened the thunder release scroll given by the third generation. He must admit that the thunder release ninjutsu recorded on it was quite good. But this is not just thunder release ninjutsu, there are also some illusion techniques. Just these two. Yi Jian picked two ninjutsu, a lightning clone and a dark walking technique. The rest of the thunder release ninjutsu are temporarily inconsistent with Yi Jian's fighting style. But the above relevant knowledge can be used to enhance his understanding of Lei Dan. In the middle of the night, he came to the 7th training ground again and opened the swordsmanship scroll. As expected, there is content about the White Fang sword technique. Ninjutsu. Like Raikage's ninjutsu, it is a combat method that combines ninjutsu and swordsmanship. Looking at it this way, Luya Shunwu is really suitable for ninja swordsmanship. After carefully reading the above content, Yi Jian began to practice. Shish, whoosh, all I could see was a flash of lightning shining everywhere under the night cover, and as time went by, an increasingly sharp and agile aura emitted. I see, is this the real swordsmanship? The more Yi Jian practiced, the more comfortable he became, and his kendo skills increased significantly. It just felt like my previous swordsmanship was so rigid and incoherent. After practicing until this point, he realized that the momentum and sharp edges of each movement in swordsmanship could be complementary to each other, producing the effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2. His original use was just like chewing peonies, which wasted a lot of energy and exposed flaws. It's just the terrifying speed that makes up for the corresponding shortcomings. No wonder Senior White Fang is invincible on the battlefield. This set of sword skills is simply a perfect killing machine. He who created this kind of sword skill is really amazing. It's a pity that we can't see him again. It's a pity. It was almost dawn before Yi Jian returned home. But it is no longer as fierce as it was in the second half of the night. Instead, it has a profound feeling of returning to nature, hiding its edge in a sheath. With the addition of the Yin Seal, Shenyan Rasengan, and the bonus of this ninja swordsmanship, I wonder if I am qualified to face the cage level now. Go say goodbye to Tsunade-sensei. After putting on clothes, the system voice suddenly sounded in my mind. The sign-in begins. Please go to Tsunade to sign in for 5 minutes. Yi Jian couldn't help but feel weird on his face. System, are you stealing my ideas? Just as he said he was going to say goodbye to Tsunade, the system sign-in came. But there was no response from the system, and Yi Jian had already gotten used to it, so he curled his lips and walked out the door. Hey, Yi Jian kid, you came to my place so early, it seems you have something to talk about. Tsunade was doing beauty care. If you have anything to say it quickly, don't waste my time. But she didn't see the sudden enthusiasm and joy in Yi Jian's slightly lowered eyes. Am I so lucky today? I really got this technique. Yi Jian suppressed the excitement in his heart and kept calm on the surface, saying, I'm here to say goodbye to you, teacher Tsunade. After hearing this, Tsunade's movements froze, and then she pretended not to care and said, Tisk, you have to say goodbye to me after a mission, you are no longer a child. After a pause, she said in a slightly lower voice, come back alive, otherwise no one will inherit my mother's medical skills. Yi Jian nodded, bowed, and quickly said goodbye to Jiraiya before officially embarking on a trip to Iwagakure village. And in his system space, there was a jade-colored scroll lying on it at the moment, with 4 big characters written on it, the art of hundreds of heroes. Yes, after obtaining the Yin Seal, Yi Jian signed in again and obtained the art of hundreds of heroes. He really got the Baihao technique that he had been thinking about for a long time. Ha ha ha, good, good. Until he left the scope of Konoha, Yi Jian finally couldn't help but laugh up to the sky. The art of Baihao. The more chakra you have, the stronger you become. With the chakra he has stored now, coupled with those methods, he may really be able to face the cage level without losing. This time during his trip to Yenian village, he had more confidence. Meanwhile, root tissue. Danzo Shimura said with a sinister expression, don't blame me, Nora Hazama, I don't want to destroy talents like you. But since you can't be used by me, I have to ask you to die. This time, even with the strength of a Sannin, you can't escape death. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but raise. Sarutobi, now the competition between us is fair again. You have your genius subordinates, and I also have mine. Let me see, who has the final say in Konoha. Orochimaru will definitely become the Hokage. Neither Namikaze Minato nor Noragama can come back. No one can compete with Orochimaru for the position of Hokage. As he spoke, the crazy look in his eyes became more intense. He may not be the strongest, but as the Dark Ninja, the interpersonal relationships he has mastered underground can definitely be said to be unique among the entire family. Whether it is the Raikage or the Tsuchikage, they are all guests at his table. As long as the benefits are sufficient, there is no deal that they cannot reach. Diplomacy is also a means. The 2 scrolls were swallowed by 2 strange ninja beasts, and then disappeared. And the ninja beast had the marks of Yenian village and Union village on its body. After half a day, on the border between the land of earth and the land of grass, a group of rock ninjas suddenly appeared here. Captain Lois, is the information about that guy from Konoha Danzo really reliable? What if he lied to us? Wouldn't it be in vain for us? An Iowa nin with a black afro asked worriedly to the Iowa nin next to him. This is an agreement between the old man and that fool Danzo. The old man has been dealing with that Danzo for many years. With his experience, he cannot tell whether it is a conspiracy or a fact. What's more, if Danzo dares to lie to the old man, his deal with the old man will appear in front of the Hokage. I believe he does not have the courage. This captain has a beard and is serious. If Hazama were here, he would definitely recognize him. Isn't this the son of the Tsuchikage, the Junin of the Iwagakure village, Otsuchi? It's really unbelievable that there are people in this world who would betray their teammates. Another Jonin couldn't believe what he said. Besides, he is still a high-ranking official in Konoha. Shouldn't he be thinking about Konoha? Huang Tu actually wanted to say this. As a high-ranking member of Konoha, he actually betrayed Konoha ninjas. I really don't know how someone like Danzo could hold a high-level position and stay there for so long. What on earth was Naruto thinking? If such a person were in their Iwagakure village, they might have died long ago. But Captain, can Nora Hazama really escape from the Suna ninja chasing team? Another Iwa ninja asked Huang too. Although Master Tsuchikage obtained the whereabouts of Konoha Hangwang from Shimura Danzo, he immediately sold it to Casecage and used the other party's help to get rid of Konoha Hangwang. Quote, but the leader of the Suna ninja chasing team is the puppet master, Ebizo. No matter how powerful Noragama is, there is no way he can escape from him. Wangtu heard this. You can't go wrong if you pay careful attention to everything. Noragama has escaped from Chio many times on the front line. We can't absolutely guarantee that Ebizo can really deal with that guy. Now we need to take action to deal with that guy. Hearing this, the Iwa ninja was a little shocked. So the cold light of Konoha is so powerful. No wonder Casecage wants to kill him so much. At this moment, the same thing was happening near Union Village. A crisis is also waiting for Namikaze Minato. Yijien naturally would not have thought that Danzo would be so crazy that he would send information about his whereabouts to Iwagakure village and kill people with a borrowed knife. But Danzo would never have thought that Tsuchikage Onoki also wanted to kill someone with a knife, so he informed the Casecage of his whereabouts and asked the other party to ambush and besiege him. He is currently experiencing the terrifying increase brought about by Baihao's technique. His speed was already quite fast originally, but now, it was even faster to the point where he was grinning excitedly. He could already confirm that, except for Namikaze Minato, no one could crush him in terms of speed. Not even the future 4th generation Raikage. As for his strength, he doesn't know the exact value without testing it. But under Baihao's technique, he felt that he was just 1/12 of his original selves, and there was no pressure on him. As expected of the secret ninjutsu developed by Tsunade-sensei, it is so powerful. But it seems that Tsunade-sensei hasn't developed this ninjutsu yet. If she remembers correctly, the Hyakua no Jutsu was developed by Tsunade only around 60 years ago in Konoha. This suddenly seems to be embarrassing. Yijien seemed to have seen that one day in the future, Tsunade told him that I had an idea for ninjutsu, and then blah blah blah. Yijien immediately used the corresponding ninjutsu and asked in a very pretentious manner, is that so? Tsunade-sensei. Shaking his head to get rid of this thought, Yijien closed the Baihao technique. In just a few minutes, half of the chakra he had stored for so long had been consumed. 2 days later, Yijien had already left the country of fire, but just when Yijien found a shade to sit down and was about to take a rest, a sudden change occurred. Whoosh whoosh. A piece of kunai tied with a detonating talisman was shot densely. Yijien's expression changed and he immediately dodged away. But, combine wind escape and practice empty sand bombs. A violent hurricane blurred everything around it, roaring violently and attacking with extremely condensed sand and stones. Boom. Yijien quickly used the substitute technique to dodge, and the area near where he was originally was instantly flattened into ruins by the strong wind. Whoosh. Yijien had just appeared, and through his perception technique, he sensed a sharp crisis coming from behind him. In his peripheral vision, he saw a well-made puppet stabbing it with a knife. There is also a green light on the knife, which is obviously highly poisonous. Shish. As Yijien quickly drew his sword, the lightning strike armor quickly covered his body. When facing an enemy like the puppet master, one must not be careless, as it would be the end if he was stabbed by a poisonous needle. PFF'd. The sword was slashed out, and the sword and the puppet were struck in 2 parts. But Yijien was suddenly punched behind him, and a burly puppet actually approached behind him. Whoosh whoosh. As expected, another attack came. Yijien immediately dodged and landed on a tree in the distance. Looking at the enemy below, his face instantly became extremely solemn. The puppet master of Sand Hidden Village, Ebizo, and so many elite sand ninjas. Yijien had a bad premonition in his heart. How did the sand ninja know his whereabouts? This is the country of grass, far away from the frontline battlefield. Even if they hate themselves to the core, they shouldn't be able to snipe at themselves so accurately. Cha, kid, what's your relationship with Konoha White Fang? Ebizo, who had just lost a puppet, raised his head and looked at Yijien on the tree, and shouted with a gloomy face. It was because of White Fang in the first place. If he hadn't killed his sister's son, how could Xie have been deprived of love since he was a child, and finally decided to kill Feng Ying, triggering the current war? I thought I would never see this disgusting sword technique again, but now I saw Nora Hazama using it again. Ebizo's murderous intention towards Yi Jian suddenly became more intense. It doesn't matter, Yi Jian said. On the other hand, it seems that you, with the guidance of an expert behind your back, are able to grasp my whereabouts so accurately. Hearing his words, Ebizo's face became even more gloomy. Okay, since you have a tough mouth, let me pry your mouth open. As for why we are here, you don't need to know. What do dead people do if they know so much? But Yi Jian narrowed his eyes and asked, is it related to that guy Danzo? Regardless of whether it is him or not, you were right to think so. In the entire Konoha, he was the only person who could do such a thing. HMPH, no wonder you met with such a calamity. If I were him, I would kill someone like you who is too smart and out of his control. Ebizo's words were a disguised admission that Yi Jian's guess was correct. This made Yi Jian's face darken instantly. Danzo, I will bear this grudge. He clenched his fists. In order to become stronger, wasn't he just afraid that Danzo would do something wrong? Now it really comes true. Moreover, this was even before he provoked Danzo. If Danzo wanted to get rid of him, he would get rid of him, and he didn't even need a reason at all. Is this more than outrageous? It's absolutely chilling. Kid, do you look down on me so much that you dare to be stunned in this situation? Ebizo's extremely cold voice suddenly came. Although he is 52 years old, he is at the peak of his strength. He waved his hand, and all 9 puppets attacked together. Although the imitation Chikamatsu 10 people were used, it did not affect the powerful sense of oppression brought by this puppet at all. Shadow level. There is no doubt that this guy Ebizo is definitely a shadow level powerhouse. The absolute oppression that is superior to the Junin can only be achieved at this level. His Chikamatsu 10 people didn't know what secret method they used, and their bodies were quite hard. The sharpness and ninja swordsmanship that Yi Jian used with the Chidori blade just now was actually able to destroy it. Fortunately, I have stored some chakra in the past 2 days, otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to handle it. A shadow level Ebizo is enough for Yi Jian to drink a pot. Coupled with the dozen or so sand ninja elites below, they have formed a barrier, obviously trying to catch themselves in a trap. If it weren't for Bai Hao's technique, Yi Jian felt that today would really capsize in the gutter. Base. He waved his sword to fight the burly puppet who was attacking him. When the tall and lanky puppet attacked from behind, he shouted, definitely. Taking this opportunity, he turned into lightning and disappeared. It's really fast, but it's useless no matter how fast you are today. The people forming the formation are outside the formation, and the formation itself is difficult to destroy. He would not give Yi Jian a chance to break the formation. Yi Jian has only one result today, a dead end. Whoosh. Yi Jian appears behind Ebi Hyde. The puppet master is weak in melee combat. If he is dealt with first, everything will be fine. But, base, a puppet Feya stood in front of him, and several other puppets gathered quickly in an instant. Yi Jian's scalp was numb, and he immediately dodged away, and then appeared behind another puppet, trying to cut off the puppet's strings. What a good boy, your insight is quite keen. It's a pity that you won't have this opportunity. Before Yi Jian had time to take action, he felt a puppet with a foe on its chest flash before his eyes, and he waved a fist wrapped in strong chakra. He felt that this heavy force could even break boulders directly. As expected of the puppet master, the puppet can actually use chakra. Yi Jian was frightened, and he flashed again, but the moment he appeared, a puppet with a dharma on his chest came towards him with a slender sword, and had an extremely sharp aura. If Yi Jian resists, he has already seen the other puppets attacking, and he will definitely be besieged by then. If he dodges, he might appear in the same situation again. No matter how you do it, it's a desperate situation and a crisis. The power of the shadow level is evident. Ninja 3 treasures suck. Sure enough, as soon as Yi Jian appeared, a majestic swallowing and pulling force came from before his eyes. The 2 puppets of Fo and Fa that I just saw, together with the monk puppet in front of me, formed this terrifying formation, and there was no way to escape. Your death has come, Konoha Hangwang. Ebizo shouted fiercely. This time I won't let you use speed to escape. In order to deal with you, my sister and I specially discussed the corresponding tactics. As long as your speed is limited, you are nothing. Hearing this, Yi Jian also smiled. Really? Since the normal state doesn't work, then, let's use the art of hundreds of heroes. A diamond shape on Yi Jian's chest suddenly turned into a pattern and spread all over his body in an instant. Boom. The aura around Yi Jian instantly increased several times, and even Ebizo couldn't help but change his expression. Willow Leaf's instant dance thousand birds blade. There was a flash of lightning, and a shocking sound was heard. The three treasures were shattered by force. The right arm of the foe puppet was cut off, and a huge crack appeared under the ribs of the FA puppet. If it weren't for the sealing technique that suddenly appeared on the right arm of the monk puppet and shot a flying blade from it, Yi Jian's heavy punch would have landed on the foe puppet. Whoosh! Yi Jian appeared again, already in front of a group of sand ninja elites. The shadow-level powerhouse is really terrifying. He directly predicted all my appearances and brought me into his rhythm. In this brief contact battle just now, he felt a heavy pressure that he had never experienced before. If it hadn't been for Bai Hao's skill, he would have been besieged and severely injured by now. In that case, let's kill these guys first. Yi Jian's face showed a fierce expression. Ninja swordsmanship Willow Leaf instant dance thousand bird blade. Seeing these sand ninjas acting like they were facing a formidable enemy at every moment, Yi Jian sneered twice. If you can block it, you can try it. The moment he finished speaking, all the sand ninjas saw was a flash of lightning with a graceful trajectory passing in front of them. PFF'd. Next moment, only two Junin escaped with the help of sand clones. But one lost his left hand and the other lost his left arm. The other sand ninjas all had their eyes widened, looking at the people around them with horror as they clutched their necks unwillingly and died after a few struggles. A moment. There were only 3 enemies left on the entire battlefield. You fool. Ebizo's eyes turned red when he saw this scene. Crush me to pieces. Ebizo's murderous intention towards a person has never been so strong. White secret technique. Secret burial in the jungle. The 3 puppets of Dharma Monk are combined together again. The next moment, countless thick and thick puppet tentacles like diamond wood came from all directions like surging waves. It's just like a low-end version of Tree World's Birth, cutting off all life. Just trying to destroy me is not enough. Yi Jian also shouted loudly. Chakra surged into his hands, super large jade Rasengan. A moon-like terrifying spiral pill was lifted up by him and suddenly pushed in all directions. Boom boom boom. All the tentacles collapsed upon contact, and had no blocking effect in the face of this terrifying tearing power. Yi Jian immediately rushed to the 3 puppets of the Buddhist monk. When he was about to destroy these 3 obstructive puppets, how could Ebizo be willing? This guy is actually so strong. After Ebizo was horrified, what emerged was an even stronger murderous intention. Such a genius must be nipped in the cradle. Immediately, a bulky puppet appeared in front of the Buddhist monk puppet. When he opened his body, a giant shield engraved with array patterns popped out. Boom. The giant shield did block it, but it wasn't enough. Break. Yi Jian shouted loudly, unleashed great strength, and pushed forward fiercely. The giant shield suddenly shattered in formation, and the next moment, the entire puppet was completely shattered in front of the super large jade Rasengan. Not good. Ebizo was horrified. Even the shield puppet couldn't stop this guy. But Dharma Monk is the most precious. Nothing can happen to him. Another shield puppet appears. Only then was he finally able to stop it. The remaining 5 puppets immediately rushed towards Yi Jian, and the Buddhist monks swooped in 3 directions, forming a barrier to surround Yi Jian. Ebizo didn't believe it. After releasing such a terrifying ninjutsu, Yi Jian would not fall into a situation of insufficient chakra. Next, it's time for him to close the door and beat the dog. A ninja without chakra is worse than a dog. Dharma Monk, is this a 3-talented human formation? What a troublesome existence. Yi Jian looked at the position of Buddhist monks and did not dare to let them use their abilities again. It seems that one of them must be destroyed, and the other 2 will not be as powerful. It should also prevent him from using some weird ninjutsu. Yi Jian thought this, and the Rasengan aura emerged from his hand again, but it also had a thunder attribute aura. Kid, you just released such a terrifying ninjutsu, you don't have any chakra. Then it's up to me. Ebizo grinned proudly, and the two Junin also helped each other perform the seals to release the wind release, making his skills more powerful. White secret technique. Thousand Needles Rain. Ebizo quickly formed a seal, and the next moment, all the puppets opened their mouths at the same time, aiming at Yi Jian, and a poisonous needle like a javelin struck quickly. There is no way to dodge, you will be shot into a sieve. Shenyan Rasengan. Yi Jian just groaned and threw the Rasengan with attributes in his hand towards the foe puppet. When he drew his sword, he created two substantial chakra sword waves, tearing through the strong wind. He took a step back, swung his sword like a full moon, and all the poisonous needles were blocked. Even if there was any omission, it was blocked by the lightning strike armor. However, the Rasengan disappeared with a pop. Ha ha ha, what's wrong? The chakra consumption is too much, and you can't even use a decent ninjutsu. Seeing this scene, Ebizo couldn't help but laugh, and then turned into a more ferocious smile. The swordsmanship is indeed good, then you can go and die. Yi Jian also smiled. Oh, really? Ebizo smiled fiercely when he saw this. Pretend to be a ghost. But when he was about to control the puppet to attack, a light blue Rasengan suddenly appeared in front of the foe puppet like a ghost. What? Ebizo was immediately stunned. Before he had time to react, he heard a loud cracking sound, and the foe puppet was instantly broken into many pieces and scattered everywhere. The Rasengan trembled and buzzed violently, obviously about to explode. Not good. Ebizo was horrified and wanted to remove the nearby puppets, but there was no time. Boom! A huge ball of chakra exploded violently, turning into a huge high-speed rotating energy ball, ruthlessly devouring and tearing apart everything around it. The three puppets of Buddhist monk, along with the other two puppets, were all swallowed up and dismembered into pieces in an instant. Puff! In the distance, Ebizo appeared. Facing the huge loss, he couldn't accept the blood and spurted out a mouthful of blood. Lord Ebizo. The two Jonin were shocked when they saw this and hurriedly came to his side. Are you okay? Nothing. Ebizo stood up with a trembling body, looked at Yi Jian opposite who was also panting, and said with a stern face, come together, we must kill him. The two Junin looked at Habarama and thought in horror, what kind of monster is this guy? Even Ebizo-sama is no match for him. He is already so strong at the age of 14. How much should he grow in the future? The two of them had only one thought at the same time, kill him to prevent him from growing any more. Ha ha ha, kill me. Yi Jian couldn't help but laugh, then with a stern look in his eyes, he rushed towards the three of them, then let me see who killed whom. His speed was now extremely fast, and he was in front of the three of them in the blink of an eye. Block. Ebizo moved his fingers, and the remaining three puppets suddenly came together, with various weapons sprouting from all over their bodies. The two Junin even retreated at the same time, happily trying to form seals together. You've been fooled, everyone. Unexpectedly, when Yi Jian was about to approach Ebizo, he suddenly pulled away and saw that he had completed the last seal in his hand. Oops. Seeing this scene, Ebizo felt something bad, but he had no time to stop it. Illusion darkness. Ebizo and the other three felt that their eyes suddenly went dark and they could not see anything. Not good. Ebizo was shocked and quickly moved the puppet to defend himself inside. And immediately used powerful chakra to break through the illusion. PFF'd. Just when Ebizo broke through the genjutsu, he saw the two Junin looking at each other in disbelief, and a scarlet blood line suddenly appeared on their necks. Then he fell to the ground, bleeding from his neck. All their weapons were cut off, and not only that, even the barrier was blasted with a big hole. This guy's goal can't be. Ebizo suddenly had a very bad premonition, but saw Yi Jian suddenly showed a chilling smile. He immediately said to the Suna ninja outside the field, hurry up and complete the barrier, his goal is. Before he could finish speaking, a huge gash was cut on his chest. The next moment, Ebizo turned into a pile of sand, but the remaining blood beads in the air still showed that he did not completely escape the blow. Did he appear here? Yi Jian raised the corner of his mouth, having already sensed where Ebizo was about to appear. The sword in his hand suddenly spread with sword intent, and thunder exploded, willow leaves instant dance thousand bird blade. In the distance, the moment Ebizo appeared, Yi Jian also moved. It turned into lightning and drew a bright trace in the air, and the cold blade had already landed in front of Ebizo's chest. Ebizo's pupils suddenly shrank, but he had been fighting for many years, so how could he not expect such a thing? Then there was a shield puppet in front of Ebizo, trying to block the blow on his behalf. There was even a faint look of pride in his eyes, as if to say, "I'm so sorry, I saw through your thoughts." But, with a pop sound, Ebizo's original proud expression was instantly replaced by shock and pain. His chest was suddenly penetrated by a cold lightning, and the puppet in front of him was shattered together. "Are you underestimating my swordsmanship a little too much?" If he hadn't acquired ninja swordsmanship before, he certainly wouldn't have been able to break through it. But now, ninja swordsmanship allowed him to condense his power into one place, and even increased his power. No matter how hard this puppet is, it can't stop his edge. "Kid, I will support you even if I die," Ebizo shouted unwillingly, and a violent aura surged out of his body. He moved his fingers quickly, and countless blades suddenly appeared in the puppet's body, and some even had detonating symbols and poisons attached to them. Then, the puppet exploded. Yi Jian couldn't help but feel horrified and immediately retreated without thinking. Boom! At the moment of the explosion, thousands of cold rays of light shot out in all directions, the barrier was rippled by attacks, and the ground made a popping sound, with small holes exploding from time to time. A piece of frightening poisonous mist was emitted, threatening to fill the entire formation. Obviously, Ebizo's idea is very clear, he wants Yi Jian to be poisoned and die. It's a good idea, but can they do it? Yi Jian appeared again and had reached the edge of the formation. Seeing the panic on the faces of the 4 sand ninjas in the formation, he drew his sword and swung it suddenly. Crack! Cracks immediately appeared in the formation. Yi Jian smiled and punched out again. Just like a big mountain colliding, the 4 sand ninjas felt a burst of terrifying power, making them all vomit blood and fall back. The large formation dispersed immediately. "That guy is out, run away." The 4 formed sand ninja were frightened to death when they saw this scene. Shish! Yi Jian's figure turned into a bolt of lightning at extremely high speed again, killing 3 people in an instant. "No! Don't kill me!" Looking at the frightened sand ninja in front of him, who was speechless incoherently, Yi Jian actually sheathed his sword. "If you don't leave, do you plan to stay?" The sand ninja suddenly trembled and ran away, turning back from time to time, for fear that Yi Jian would suddenly appear behind him again. Then, why? Seeing the sudden appearance of the blade on his chest, the sand ninja asked with great reluctance. "Do you think I'm stupid for leaving you alive? I'm just teasing you, do you really take it seriously?" Yi Jian drew his knife. "Don't believe such stupid words again in your next life. Cancel the lightning strike armor mode and exit the art of hundreds of heroes." Suddenly, a feeling of extreme weakness came over me, as if my body was about to fall apart. After taking a pill to restore physical strength, the system voice suddenly sounded, "The sign-in begins. Please go to Ebizo's side to sign in. The sign-in time is 10 seconds. The sign-in came suddenly, and the critical time was still so short, Yi Jian had no choice but to quickly walk to Ebizo's body. It always feels weird to sign in next to someone else's corpse. Yi Jian couldn't help complaining. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 2 puppet slaves and 1 consciousness exploration scroll. Puppet slave can act according to the host's thoughts, has various puppet skills, and the host's consciousness can also be attached to it. Experience the battle firsthand, and it is the best choice for committing evil. The body is a puppet made by Ebizo. Once damaged, it cannot be repaired. It's interesting, this is a good thing. Whether it's to help or to do something shady, there is a way. Consciousness detection technique. Can search for information in the minds of all living things, including corpses, without leaving traces of access. Isn't this the secret technique of the Mountain Clan? Yi Jian was overjoyed and learned immediately, and then immediately invaded Ebizo's consciousness. His brows frowned immediately. Only then did he know that Onoki had sold the news about Sunagakur village to them. The news about Onoki was undoubtedly given to him by Danzo. This was admitted by Ebizo himself. Okay, since you're cheating on me, don't blame me for cheating on you too. He thought of a countermeasure instantly. This time, he wants Danzo to vomit blood. But since Onoki knows my whereabouts, he may not send a team of Iwa ninjas to ambush me. If he were Onoki, even though he knew that Ebizo's interception and killing of Noragama should be foolproof, he would still ambush a small team on Noragama's only way to the Earth country just in case. In that case, let's make a plan. Disguise yourself as a sand ninja and inform the Iwa ninjas that Ebizo and the others failed in their pursuit, but Habarama is also seriously injured. Please pay attention. Then use the identity of Ebizo to kill the Iwa ninja and provoke a war between them. This will also relieve the pressure on Konoha. Habarama touched his chin. That's it. Ebizo kills people. What does it have to do with Nora, Habarama and me? Hey, no, the puppet slave will be useful. The puppet was made by Ebizo, and I believe that the Iwa ninjas will never suspect him in Konoha. They probably won't believe that I can kill Ebizo, let alone the interception team he leads. 1 Ebizo plus 2 Junin, a dozen special Junin combat power, even Jiraiya will be punished. After all, he has only stepped into the shadow level now, and he does not have the terrifying strength that he will have against pain in the future. Even Jiraiya will suffer from hatred. Who would have thought that a kid who had just made a name for himself could do all this? He came to Ebizo's corpse and poured out his various items from his ninja tool bag. Hey, I like people who carry all their belongings with them. He was not interested in the puppet technique scroll inside, and other ninjutsu in Sunagakur village. As for those poisons and a bunch of money, I'm very interested. Money, who doesn't love it? It's just right for the Iwa ninjas to experience the special poison of Sand Hidden Village. Speaking of which, the poison obtained from Taki is not impossible to use on the Iwa ninjas. After cleaning up everything, he dug a hole and buried Ebizo, and Yijien began to regain his strength. Perception is turned on to prevent someone from approaching for a sneak attack. But, didn't you just take a nap and come to the pillow? A few hundred meters away, he detected the aura of an Iwa ninja. Now he is even more confident about the successful implementation of the plan. After half a day, Captain, why hasn't this Konoha Hangwang come yet? Is there something wrong? Border of the land of grass. The Iwa ninja next to Huang-Tu asked, unable to sit still. What do you say about the person who was sent out to investigate the situation? Huang-Tu asked, and the Iwa ninja beside him shook his head. There is no news yet. It's indeed a bit strange. It's been so long and there's still no news. Lois also felt very strange. Logically speaking, Noragama should have arrived at the border of grassland today. At this time, there should be a result. Urgent report. At this time, a figure of Iwa ninja appeared 10 meters in front of Huang-Tu and the others. What's wrong? Is there any news from Suna ninja? When Huang-Tu saw this man, he immediately asked. Captain, Ebizo's pursuit of Konoha's cold light was unlucky. 12 Suna ninjas were injured and Konoha's cold light was seriously injured. Ebizo is chasing us. The rock ninja answered, but everyone present was shocked. What? That guy Ebizo didn't take down the cold light of Konoha? Huang-Tu asked in shock. Are you sure this news is true? Iwa ninja nodded. My subordinates have seen it with their own eyes, so there is no way it is false. Huang-Tu and the other Junin looked at each other, feeling a sense of disbelief. Are you sure Konoha Hangwang was seriously injured? Huang-Tu asked again. Yes, my subordinates saw that he was hit by Ebizo's poisonous needle and was injured by one of the puppets and vomited blood. Iwa ninja replied again. Really, was the fish yesterday delicious? Huang-Tu suddenly asked such a strange question. A normal person would probably subconsciously answer, it's delicious. But this Iwa ninja suddenly raised his head and said with some doubts, Master Lois, you should know that I don't like to eat fish. And when did we eat fish yesterday? Faced with the Iwa ninja's doubts, Huang-Tu immediately laughed and said, don't be offended. I was afraid that the enemy would sneak in, so I tested it. The rock ninja nodded and said, understood. But he couldn't help but feel relieved in his heart. Fortunately, I have investigated the corresponding information, otherwise this time it would be really bad. Of course he was Habarama pretending to be one, and the real Iwa ninja scout was long dead. Who? At this moment, Huang-Tu suddenly shouted at something. Suddenly everyone became alert. Haha, it's me, everyone from Iwagakure village. An old voice came, and then, Ebizo appeared, with 2 puppets floating behind him. Ebizo, what are you doing here? Where is Konoha Hangwang? When Huang-Tu saw Ebizo, he immediately shouted and questioned. I feel ashamed to say that I let him run away, but he has also been seriously injured. Don't get me wrong, everyone, I am here to tell you the news. Ebizo bowed to everyone in Iwagakure village, his voice full of hatred. Please give me another chance, I will never tolerate the cold light of Konoha to continue to live. Huang Tu couldn't help but smile mockingly after hearing this. Why should we give you this opportunity? If you're not capable, that's your business. If we ambush Konoha Hangwang, that's our business. I remember we agreed in advance that once you fail to kill Konoha Hangwang, we will take over. Why, Mr. Ebizo, your majestic puppet master, is also a very important person in Sunagakure village. Now you have to say nothing. Hearing these words, Ebizo's face suddenly darkened. In other words, everyone, there is really no room for negotiation. Huang Tu heard the evil in his words. Ebizo, do you want to take action against us? Ebizo raised his head and said calmly, I have no choice but to apologize, everyone from Iwa Ninja. I must kill Noragama with my own hands. The moment the words fell, he saw two phantoms rushing out from behind him and heading straight towards Huang Tu and the others. A dense cloud of poison poured out like a torrential rain at an unusually fast speed. This is far beyond Huang Tu's understanding of the puppet master. However, when I thought that the opponent was a puppet master, it was not an exaggeration to have such strength, so I quickly formed a seal to create a barrier to resist. However, PFF'd, the Iwa ninja who just knelt in front of him struck him in the back with a sneak attack. You fool! Lois took action in anger, but unexpectedly, the rock ninja quickly retreated and turned into a sand ninja. I didn't expect that, Lois. Suna ninja laughed proudly. Just when the poisonous needle was about to shoot the Lois into a sieve, another Jonin flew up and took him away. But not every one of the other Iwa ninjas were so lucky. Puff puff. A rock ninja was hit and immediately fell to the ground and twitched violently. There were originally a team of 20 people, but now there were only 10 left. Ah, Garomaru, you fool. Lois appeared, and his eyes couldn't help but burst into tears when he saw this scene. Go quickly, Lois, the Jonin who saved him shouted, do you think we will be the opponent of this fool Ebizo? Not to mention he has a helper. If you don't leave, everyone will fall here. This Iwagakure village Jonin stood in front of Lois. Zuosuke, Yusuke, take the Lois Jonin away quickly. The rest of you will be married off with me. Hearing these words, Lute was horrified. Just as he was about to refuse, the Jonin said, Lute, Master Tsuchikage, are you teaching your mother-in-law? Walk. After saying that, he rushed straight towards Ebizo. Where to go? Karimaru shouted when he saw this, and immediately chased out. Since I have already taken action against you, how can I let you escape? It just so happens that we can frame the crime on Konoha Hangwang, ha ha ha. Ebizo apparently thought so too, as two puppets immediately flew out. White secret technique, poison mist cluster cloud. A terrifying poisonous mist spurted out and instantly enveloped the Jonin of Iwagakure village. Do not. Lois's eyes cracked and he shouted fiercely. Ebizo, Lois, will fight with you in Sunagakure village until death. Then he turned around and was quickly retreated by Zuosuke and Yusuke. The Iwagakure Murakujonin quickly flew out of the poisonous mist, but as soon as he emerged, he saw a shuriken approaching. How can it be so fast? He couldn't help but have a new understanding of the power of the puppet master, and quickly waved his sword to block it. Puff puff. In the poisonous mist, there was the sound of something being stabbed with a sharp weapon. The Junin couldn't help but grit his teeth. He knew that several of their elite rock ninjas had fallen. But when he blocked it, another puppet came from behind, and the cold light of the sword was like a full moon. The rock ninja was horrified. White Fang sword technique, how is it possible, you? But a bolt of lightning suddenly pierced his chest. It's Ebizo. You are definitely not Ebizo, what are you? Puff. Another blow from Egn interrupted his words. And when the poisonous mist dissipated, the remaining 5 rock ninjas watched this scene. Everyone's eyes widened. How is it possible that Captain Blackstone died like this? Run away, we are no match at all, we must bring this news to Lord Tsuchikage. One of the Iwa ninja said, and the other 4 immediately turned around and ran away, each in a different direction. Hey, do you think it's possible? Karimaru grinned and flashed across the field as fast as lightning. This speed. You are not the sand ninja Garomaru, you are. The Iwa ninja who said he wanted to run away widened his eyes, but was suddenly cut off by a sword. The remaining 4 Iwa ninjas were completely dead. Dead people shouldn't talk so much nonsense. Kirimaru pulled out his long sword and said indifferently. Forget it, don't chase the ones who escaped. If they scatter and escape, how can we catch up? If we are surrounded by Iwa ninjas, we will lose more than we gain. Ebizo turned around and said, let's go back and return to Lord K's cage. With this Jonin, we can know the next plan of Iwagakure village, and we can also decide whether to unite with Konoha. Kirimaru nodded and left after Ebizo. No one saw it, but a smile suddenly appeared on the corners of their mouths. It was as if these words were said to someone on purpose. But it was indeed the case. Just behind a tree not far from them, there was an Iwa ninja hiding. And those words he just said were deliberately meant for this Iwa ninja. As for the purpose, of course it was to provoke a war between Iwagakure and Sunagakure. Even if they can't, they can be made to guard against each other, thus easing the burden on Konoha. As for Danzo, let's settle our scores slowly. Naturally, Habarama does not plan to return to Konoha anytime soon. No matter what, we have to wait until things between Iwagakure and Sunagakure begin to ferment before going back. The effect will be best at that time. What did you say? Sunagakure village planned to form an alliance with Konoha and captured Blackstone. Onoki just learned about the news that his son Lois was severely injured and that Ebizo attacked their Iwa ninja. Still in the midst of shock and anger, why did Ebizo attack them for no reason? People like Ebizo don't look like brainless people. What good does this do to him? But from the mouth of this Iwa ninja, I knew the reason why Ebizo did this. It was actually to form an alliance with Konoha. This made him startled. But what was horrifying to Onoki was that Kuroishi had the entire plan for their next battle in Iwagakure village in his head. Including colluding with Kumogakure village to attack Konoha, right at the beginning of the battle between Sunagakure village and Konoha Kikyo mountain, and taking advantage of most of Konoha's power to gather on the front line, a sudden attack. There is even a plan to encourage Union Village to charge first, and after both sides suffer losses with Konoha, they will then choose the losing side to attack and reap the benefits. In the original work, this is what he did. Only 3 generations of Raikages fought to the death against 10,000 rock ninjas, and finally died of exhaustion. Onoki couldn't imagine what the tragic consequences would be if Sunagakure knew their plan and joined forces with Konoha, and if Kumogakure knew that Iwagakure was planning to stab them in the back. His Iwagakure village could not stop the joint attack of Konoha, Kumogakure village, and Sunagakure village. Quick, send people to chase Ebizo. We must not let him spread this news back to Sunagakure village. Onoki quickly summoned the elites of Iwagakure village and the 4-tailed Jinchuriki to go together. The black stone corpse in Ebizo's hands must be snatched back. This combat plan must not be leaked. As for the matter of Lois being injured, we can talk about it later. Now, on a road in the country of grass, hey, Onoki, I guess you have started to send people to pursue you now. That's just right. You will be completely dead now without any evidence. Onoki sent people to chase Ebizo, but as a result, Ebizo was not seen back in Sunagakure village. Finally, Ebizo's body was found at the border of grass country. What do you think the Sunagakure village would think? Iwagakure killed Ebizo. This revenge will never end. Let the wind blow harder. He murmured in a low voice, found a cave, and continued to practice his latest consciousness exploration technique. Just in time, let me see what your Iwagakure village's plan is. Is it like in the original book, where both parties make bets, wanting to sneak attack Konoha and plot against Kumogakure? Yijien once again probed into Blackstone's consciousness. However, his face showed excitement first, as if it was true. Then, he suddenly became extremely cold and cold. Okay, Danzo, you really leaked my whereabouts to Onoki. It was just speculation before, but now it's really confirmed. Very good, I will settle this grudge with you. After returning the same way and clearing away the traces of invasion, Yijien entered into the practice of swordsmanship and Baihao's art. But compared to his calmness, Onoki couldn't be calm at all. What, you mean, there is no trace of Ebizo in the entire kingdom of grass? After hearing the news brought back by the pursuit team, Onoki couldn't help but feel a chill that shot straight to Tianlingai. No, I was calculated. Onoki thought about it and immediately realized that he had been tricked. Maybe the person who took away the black stone was not the real Ebizo at all. But now I can't explain it clearly even if I have 100 mouths. He gave the order to pursue. Ebizo was still alive, which was also confirmed by their Iwa ninja. But in the end, the Iwa ninja said that they had not found Ebizo, and as a result, Ebizo did not return to Sunagakure village. So may I ask, what would others think? The Iwa ninja lied and they killed Ebizo to avenge the Jonin Kuroishi. Who is it that has such scheming intentions? Onoki felt chill in his heart. The unknown enemy was the most terrifying thing. Danzo, it must be you. Who does this benefit? Only Konoha. And the only person in Konoha who can do such a thing is Danzo. Asshole, is this the purpose of selling me the information? Onoki immediately regretted it. If he hadn't realized it later, how could such a thing have happened? At this moment, in the sand-hidden village. Onoki, I want your Iwagakure to pay with your life. Chio's eyes were bloodshot and he shouted, his voice was extremely sad. She looked at Keisuke Rasa, filled with resentment, unite with Konoha, Keisuke. Whether it is to avenge Ebizo or for the sake of the overall situation of Sunagakure village, this is the best choice. Do you want Ebizo to die in vain? If you are unwilling to bow your head, I will help you. Looking at the corpse with only one head left in front of him, Chio could not calm down no matter what. A blood feud must be repaid with blood. It is good. As Chio said, whether it is to avenge Ebizo or to unite with Konoha to attack Iwagakure for the benefit of Sunagakure village, this is a good excuse. One day later, the Hokage's office. The three major advisors and the Hokage gathered together, looking at Yijien who had just returned from the mission, with different expressions. I didn't expect you to be able to successfully complete the mission. Not only that, you also successfully provoked the hatred between Iwagakure and Sunagakure villages, which led to a truce between Sunagakure and Konoha and an alliance to jointly deal with Iwagakure. The Iwa ninja killed Ebizo. Sarutobi, you have gained an incredible apprentice. Shimura Danzo said with cold eyes, pretending to appreciate it. He didn't believe that Yijien could kill Ebizo. Mito Menyon and Kaharu also nodded when they went to bed, looking at Hajien with eyes filled with admiration. Hearing this, Yijien couldn't help but smile. Then I have to thank you for your help, Danzo-sama. Without you revealing my whereabouts to the Tsuchikage, there would be no Keisuke knowing my whereabouts from the Tsuchikage. Then someone was sent to rob and kill me, and I took the opportunity to guide both parties and achieve this achievement. As soon as these words came out, the third Hokage immediately frowned and reprimanded. Shut up, Hajien, you have just made great achievements and you don't know what's good or bad. Don't you know what the crime of slandering the Hokage's advisor is? As a disciple of Hokage, you are not the reason for your nonsense. Good guy, the third Hokage seemed to be reprimanding, but in fact he was telling Hajien that as long as there is evidence, it is not a slander. Haha, Hokage-sama, you will know it soon. I believe that Senior Hiei will present the evidence to you as soon as possible. How could Yijien not understand the meaning of Sandai's words? He smiled. Seeing Danzo's gloomy expression, Yijien felt a sense of joy in his heart. If you plot against me, I will make you vomit blood. He didn't believe that Sandai could still remain calm after seeing his disciple being plotted against. If so, he would immediately betray Konoha. Danzo, I hope you can give me an explanation when the time comes. The third Hokage looked at Danzo on the side and said in a bad tone, I asked you to secretly communicate with the major shadows so that you can carry out things that are beneficial to Konoha. I did not ask you to do this kind of thing. If you use it indiscriminately, then I will have to take back this power. This made Danzo's face suddenly look even uglier, and his eyes became even colder when he looked at Hajien. Yijien seemed not to have seen it, but said, oh, by the way, Lord Tsuchikage must think that you have been fooled this time. If you don't withdraw those undercover agents in Iwagakure village, they may be gone. Alright. Danzo suddenly wanted to vomit blood. Good guy, the Hokage had just killed him, and Yijien came to stab him in the heart again. As expected of a teacher. HMPH, I still need you to remind me about this kind of thing. Danzo snorted in displeasure. He never expected that Yijien would be so bold and tell such dirty things. But when he thought about it, he was a disciple of Hokage, so there seemed to be nothing he couldn't say. Apart from him, aren't everyone else here from the Hokage lineage? Soon, people from the intelligence department under Yamanaka Haichi sent information. The third Hokage's expression quickly darkened. Chapter 31. Because here, there is indeed content that Danzo sold Hajima's whereabouts information to Onoki. Duanzo, I am officially informing you that I will take back all your power to connect all the forces in the ninja world today. You must stay in the root organization honestly. Also, you must keep the news that Yijien caused Sunagakur village and Iwagakure village to turn against each other and make us alliance with Sunagakur village. If there is any leakage, or if anything goes wrong in Yijien, you are the only one I can ask. If something like this happens again, I won't be lenient. Faced with such a harsh decision from the third, Danzo could no longer calm down. Sarutobi, you. The third Hokage looked directly over and narrowed his eyes slightly. What, Danzo, do you want to disobey the Hokage's order? Danzo gritted his teeth, his face suddenly filled with unwillingness, and finally said, don't dare. He glanced at Yijien with great resentment, then walked away. If looks could kill, Yijien would have died many times. It feels so good to have someone supporting me. Seeing Danzo's depressed and embarrassed look on the verge of vomiting blood, Yijien felt relieved. However, now that we have completely broken up with him, we have to be careful about his revenge. Strength must be strong enough. As long as he is strong enough, he can do what he wants without fear of anyone or any obstruction. His original intention in trying to become stronger was to control his own destiny. As for the secret bosses behind the scenes such as Uchiha Madara, Black Zetsu, etc. who manipulate the ninja world, we do need to pay attention to them. Therefore, you can't relax for a moment. Yijien, what do you think of the result of this treatment? The third generation looked at his apprentice and said with a smile. Did you take back part of Danzo's power with my hand? It is indeed something worth being happy about. Yijien thought after seeing this, but on the surface he said, I have no objection. The good guys and bad guys have all been done by the third generation, what else can he say? You worked hard this time and you did a great job. Menyan, Xiaochun, I have something to ask him alone. You see. The two advisors stood up immediately. We understand, Hiruzen, you, the Hokage, can handle the rest. You are right, it's time for our old bones to retire. After the consultant left, the third Hokage asked Habarama to sit down in front of him, took a puff of cigarette and asked, Ebizo, was it you who killed him? He's not like Danzo. He could feel that the fierce momentum in Yijien's body was not much worse than that of the Sannin. Yijien nodded, yes. The third generation suddenly took a breath and asked, how did you do it? Even the three ninjas may not be able to do it. Hearing this, Yijien took out a small bottle from his ninja tool bag. This is the toxin extracted from the body of the ninja Taki of Sunagakur village. Chio cannot remove it, so the same is naturally true for Ebizo. Only then did Sandai feel relieved. I see, I thought you, the boy, killed Ebizo with your own strength. Yijien smiled and said, I can say this, but teacher, will you believe it? The third generation also smiled and shook his head when he heard this. A 14-year-old boy killed a puppet master. Unless it's a blood successor ninja. The third generation asked again, but his tone suddenly became stern, the idea of killing the Iwa ninja and blaming the Suna ninja. Aren't you afraid that if you fail, it will bring trouble to Konoha? But Yijien looked calm. If you don't have this ability, how can you be a disciple of Hokage? The third generation continued to ask, do you know why I took back the powers in Danzo's hands? Yijien shook his head. Sandai took a puff of cigarette and said word by word, because not only your whereabouts were leaked, but also Minato. If it weren't for the Flying Thunder God's jutsu, he wouldn't be able to come back. Duanzo's behavior this time really touched my bottom line. Yijien couldn't help being shocked when he heard this. He didn't expect Danzo to be so crazy. No wonder the third Hokage, an indecisive person like him, was so decisive this time. The third Hokage shook his head, but Minato didn't say anything. Instead, it was you who pointed the finger at Danzo without any scruples. Yijien chuckled when he heard this, so sensei, you chose Minato, who can take care of the overall situation, to be Hokage, not me. He dared to target Danzo, naturally because he had evidence. These words made Sandai laugh. How old are you now? Are you thinking about Naruto? Then he said seriously, I have actually wanted to take back this power for a long time, but I have never found a reason. But you gave it to me just now. When it comes to the position of Hokage, I think you are also very suitable. It's a pity that your qualifications and age are too bad. Yi Jian said, is it a pity? I don't think so. Seeing the third generation's surprise, Yi Jian spread his hands and said, the village is a tree, and the Hokage is the trunk, but the tree can't just have the trunk, it must also have branches and leaves. So, it's okay for me to be a branch. I'm all contributing to Konoha. Sandai couldn't help laughing when he heard this. You kid. He continued. Do you think Danzo's power is too huge? Hearing this, Yi Jian's eyes suddenly froze, and then he said, I don't know this, and it's not my place to comment. But I only know that if the roots of a big tree are rotten, dig them out. Otherwise, the entire tree will be affected. When the main trunk is rotten, even if the diseased tree comes back to spring, it will have no effect. Teacher, I just said it casually, and if you hear it like that, don't take it seriously. It seems like he said nothing, but in fact he said everything. Sandai smiled when he heard this, of course. After chatting with Sandai for a while, Yi Jian left. Teacher, this kid looks so much like you. Looking at Yi Jian's leaving figure, the third generation said with emotion, if this child becomes a senior executive in the future, he will definitely lead Konoha to a brighter future. Konoha medical team. Coming. When Hajian arrived, Tsunade was teaching Shizune and the others medical skills. Well, the mission is completed. Come and tell Tsunade-sensei that you are safe. Tsunade heard this and her face was full of appreciation. You did a good job in provoking Sunagakur village and Iwagakure village. Of course, Danzo's end was also good. Yi Jian also smiled, I think so too. Then, he came to the deputy chairman's office. After listening to the shadow clone describe the recent affairs, he left again. There is a shadow clone in charge of the medical team, so he won't be accused of not fulfilling his responsibilities. Konoha Medical Center. If you hadn't helped me develop the Rasengan this time, I might not have been able to come back. Minato, who was covered in bandages, looked at Hajime and said gratefully. Yi Jian has checked and found that no bones were injured, and the remaining injuries will heal in a few days. He was a little surprised and said, can you not come back? What kind of enemy did you encounter? The AB combination has not yet appeared at this time. Could it be that the third Raikage took action? The son of the Raikage and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki. Namikaze Minato said solemnly, I was attacked as soon as I arrived at the border of Thunder Country. Finally, I used the wind release chakra infused with attributes to seriously injure the Raikage's son, and captured a cloud ninja, and then I reluctantly completed the mission. Quote. He looked at Yi Jian and couldn't help but admired. Yi Jian, you are more powerful. Not only did you complete the task, you also stirred up the relationship between Yenian Village and Sand Hidden Village, which relieved the pressure on our front line. If it were me, I definitely can't do it. Yi Jian waved his hands when he heard this, it's just good luck, otherwise it would be self-defeating. Namikaze Minato shook his head, you are always so humble. By the way, I haven't congratulated you on your promotion to Special Junin. He said and took out a scroll from his body, here are some of my insights on high-speed combat. I hope it will be helpful to you. Yi Jian wanted to shirk it, but couldn't resist Namikaze Minato, so he had to accept it. In Konoha village, the news that Habarama was promoted to Special Junin attracted quite a bit of attention. But no one thought anything was wrong. Yi Jian has such strength. Many people even think that based on Habarama's medical contributions, being a Junin is enough. The healing potion he invented, the healing Bingliang pill, can successfully treat most non-life-threatening injuries. The fighting spirit of the Konoha ninjas on the front line was high, and while their combat power was greatly increased, the casualty rate was also greatly reduced. Everyone is talking about you kid outside right now. Your current reputation is no less than that of our Sanin. In a certain restaurant, Jiraiya said this. In response, Yi Jian just smiled. How is the situation in Sand Hidden Village and Yenian Village? Yi Jian asked. Although he is a disciple of Hokage, he is not yet qualified to participate in high-level meetings. There is information about Iwagakure and Kumogakure that you and Minato brought back. The old man is discussing tactics with the senior officials. Jiraiya took a sip of wine, but what is certain is that the truce between Konoha and Sunagakur village has become a fact. Sunagakur village has suffered heavy losses this time, and plans to bite some flesh and blood from Iwagakure village to make up for the losses. Over at Cloud Hidden village, I don't know what price Onoki paid to have the third Raikage, who was supposed to be plotted, form an alliance with him again. Now Konoha, is under attack from both sides. Yijien was also surprised when he heard this. The third Raikage still dares to cooperate with Onoki. He is not afraid of Onoki repeating his old tricks, and he is ready to stab them in the back when they are in the middle of a fierce battle with us in Konoha. Jiraiya shook his head. Who knows? Yijien asked again. What about Kurigakure village? They might take this opportunity to make a sneak attack. Jiraiya nodded in agreement after hearing this, but the old man and the others believe that Kurigakure village has been closed for a long time and there are no particularly strong people, so there is no need to worry too much. There was also some helplessness in his tone. In this case, it is equivalent to me facilitating the cooperation between Yenian village and Union village. Yijien said a little unhappy, and Jiraiya laughed after hearing this. No, Sunagakur village has become our ally before the war started, and Onoki has already paid a price. Without your plan this time, I don't know what the war would have been like. At least the situation is clear now. Yijien nodded. That was the case. But your good days as a kid are coming to an end. You will have to bear the responsibilities of a special Junin then. Jiraiya patted Hajime on the shoulder. In the blink of an eye, that little brat is now one of the mainstays of Konoha. Yijien also smiled. Same in the future. Afternoon. Yijien was promoted to special Junin. Kakashi, Shiranui Genma and others naturally sent their blessings. The distance between us is really getting farther and farther. Shiranui Genma sighed sincerely in his heart. They don't know whether they are lucky or unlucky to be born in the same era as monsters like Yijien. These things are for you. Yijien suddenly took out several scrolls and handed them to everyone present. These are some of my experiences on swordsmanship. There will be a war soon. I hope that after the war is over, there will still be many of you. Everyone was immediately shocked and hurriedly shied away. How could they accept such a heavy gift? Yijien's face immediately darkened. Don't you think you can be my friend? This made Shiranui Genma and the others wave their hands quickly, and then they had no choice but to accept it. Don't worry, I told Lord Hokage about this and he allowed it. This sentence immediately dispelled many of everyone's worries. They refused to accept it, firstly because it was too expensive, and secondly because they were afraid of being blamed by the Hokage. Kai, this is just for you. Yijien looked at Metkai, the only one who had not received the scroll, and was a little disappointed. You are a taijutsu ninja, of course you cannot be like them. He smiled and encouraged. I believe that in the near future, you will become a very good taijutsu ninja. Hearing these words, Metkai was immediately moved to tears. He extended his thumb to Yijien and shouted loudly, Yijien, just watch, I will definitely become the best taijutsu ninja. Yijien responded with a smile, I have always believed so. Everyone couldn't help but feel warm in their hearts. Yijien can give them his own cultivation experience. He really treats them as friends and sincerely hopes that they can have stronger life-saving capabilities. They all secretly told themselves that they would never let down Yijien's expectations. For Yijien, these people in front of him are not only comrades in arms, but also his future personal power. Publicly and privately, Yijien hoped that they would become stronger and survive the war intact. You must train hard. I will check your training results in a week. Yijien said jokingly. Ha ha ha, that's natural. This is life-saving strength. How can we not be careful? Shiranui Genma and the others smiled. Time, a week passed quickly. The 7th training ground. No way, Yijien, you are too powerful. We have been practicing so hard for a week, but several people came together and couldn't even force you to use ninjutsu. It's so shocking. Shiranui Genma collapsed to the ground, extremely doubtful about the way of life. Agree, Bing Zule said in unison, Yijien, we really can't compare to you, a monster. Hearing these words, Yijien, who was holding a wooden sword, chuckled, compared to 7 days ago, just tell me whether I have become stronger. On this point, Shiranui Genma and others agree. To put it bluntly, each of them can kill themselves 7 days ago. At this time, Kakashi stood up again. looked at Metkai who still had strength left on the side and said, again. Metkai immediately shouted, okay. What Yi Jian gave him that day was medicine to nourish chi and blood. This is what a taijutsu ninja like him needs most. Now he only feels that his body is lighter than ever before, and his physical skills have suddenly improved a lot. Therefore, he felt more and more that he could not let down Yi Jian, who had worked so hard to train them. Ha ha ha, okay, come on. Yi Jian laughed, and then pounced on the two of them like a cheetah. He knocked Metkai away with one punch, grabbed Kakashi's arm that was hit by lightning, and threw him away fiercely. Ninjutsu. Shunshuriken Jutsu. Throwing out a piece of shuriken, with the blessing of ninjutsu, it landed in front of the two people in an instant. The hair on both of them stood on end at the same time, and they quickly knocked away the incoming shurikens. Only when you really face Yi Jian will you know how ferocious this guy is. Being caught in his offensive will give you no chance to breathe. Kakashi, be careful behind you. Shiranui Genma shouted suddenly. Kakashi was horrified, and then he realized that Hazama was already behind him. No. Facing Yi Jian's punch, he had no time to respond. Zizizi. His body was instantly enveloped in a layer of thunder and lightning, and violent thunder and lightning rushed towards Yi Jian. Lightning strike armor. Have you even learned this? As expected of you, Kakashi. Yi Jian praised, but this is not enough. Yi Jian unexpectedly landed a punch without dodging, and Kakashi immediately flew out like a kite with a broken string. But the next moment he roared and turned into a thunder and lightning. Ray clone. Thunder release. Purple lightning flying pass. Behind Yi Jian, Kakashi's figure appeared again. He quickly formed a seal and shouted, hit. As if the thunder and lightning suddenly connected with Kakashi, it turned into a lightning line with extremely fast speed and rushed in front of Yi Jian. Ordinary people have no time to react. Have you developed new applications for Zidian? Yi Jian admired in his heart, as expected of Kakashi. He saw his figure suddenly sway, but the lightning line had failed. It's now. But Kakashi suddenly shouted behind Yi Jian, and Yi Jian couldn't help but look back. Nobody. He suddenly realized that he had been fooled. Ha ha ha, Yi Jian, eat my kick. Directly in front of Yi Jian, Metkai rushed over quickly, second closing door, open. Konoha's big bombs. Yi Jian only saw a huge whip leg fanning like a fan, with great force. Yi Jian was about to step back immediately, but suddenly felt that he could not move his feet. Tu Dun Wangquan Marsh. Not far away, Kakashi's somewhat proud voice came. But just when he was about to be hit, Yi Jian suddenly turned into a piece of wood. Kakashi, it seems that only by dealing with you can we deal with Kai. Listening to the voice coming from behind, Kakashi's pupils shrank. It's too late to deal with it. Young man, have you ever been kicked by light? Kakashi only saw an extremely brilliant lightning falling on his chest. The moment he flew out, he saw the thunder light making a sharp undulation again, and it came behind Kai. With another blow, Metkai was slammed into the earth. It's over again. Is even Kakashi so powerless now? Shiranui Genma looked at Hajime who appeared, and then at Kakashi and Metkai who stood up panting from a distance, and sighed sincerely. Yi Jian doesn't use ninjutsu or swordsmanship, and they are no match at all. How terrible. Okay, that's it for today's sparring. I'm very satisfied with the results of your 7 days of practice. Yi Jian glanced at everyone and said sincerely, I want to come back alive. Everyone nodded, and Yi Jian gave each of them a bottle of healing potion and a bottle of pain potion. After Kakashi and the others left, Yi Jian said to the trees behind him, come out. Then he saw a young man with an upright face, broken hair, and a lumpy nose walking out of the bushes. Judging from the regimental emblem on his clothes, he is actually from the Uchiha clan. Uchiha, Shisui, right, why are you peeking at our training? Yi Jian looked at the boy in front of him who was the same age as Kakashi, his tone was neither cold nor indifferent. Uchiha Shisui's age is ominous and is set to be the same age as Kakashi. I didn't mean to take a peek, it's just that it was so exciting that I couldn't help but look at it more. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Uchiha Shisui apologized very respectfully. Looking at Uchiha Shisui in front of him, a smile suddenly appeared at the corner of Yi Jian's mouth. I heard that you are the most genius of the Uchiha clan. Come, fight with me, and I will forgive you for peeking. thing. After hearing this, Uchiha Shisui thought that he had heard it wrong for a while, and looked at Hajime in shock. Come on, let me see what a person who is more talented than Kakashi is like. Yi Jian directly pulled out the long knife. It was obvious that he had no intention of making a joke. Yeah, then I'll be offended. Seeing Hazama Raisin, Uchiha Shisui also took a deep breath. Naturally, he also wanted to fight Yi Jian very much. He doesn't expect to win, he just wants to know how far he is from his opponent. Fire Escape Impatience Claw Red. Once he made a move, Uchiha Shisui showed no reservations. The surrounding air blurred for an instant, and the kunai shot was immediately wrapped in a terrifying flame. Amazing, this kind of fire escape achievement. Even Yi Jian couldn't help but praise it. It was hard to imagine that a 10-year-old child could unleash this kind of fire escape. He jumped out of the way, but saw Uchiha Shisui suddenly raise the corner of his mouth and pull his right hand sharply. The several fireballs that were originally scattered suddenly exploded into a shower of sparks, instantly covering all the retreat routes around Yi Jian like a meteor shower. Can it still be used like this? Amazing. Yi Jian praised him and escaped from the dense attack in a flash. It's here. As soon as Hazama appeared, the voice of Uchiha Shisui could be heard in his ears. But she saw him giving her an awe-inspiring glare, illusion. His eyes turned into double Magatama. That won't do. Ninjutsu. Shunshuriken Jutsu. Facing the shuriken that was in front of him in an instant, Uchiha Shisui could only give up. Cha! But he saw Yi Jian throw another shuriken. The shuriken that he had dodged actually collided with each other again, changed direction in the air, and attacked again. What? Kunai throwing can still do this? Uchiha Shisui was shocked, feeling like he was suddenly enlightened. Young man, have you ever been kicked by a light? Uchiha Shisui heard Habarama's voice again, and his hair suddenly stood on end. The speed was so fast that he had no time to respond. The next moment, he was shot away by Yi Jian. Wow wow wow. But Uchiha Shisui instantly dispersed into a pile of crows. He actually appeared behind Yi Jian and quickly threw a kunai. Quickly, young man. Without looking back, Yi Jian swung his sword like a full moon, the kunai was knocked away, and even Uchiha Shisui's body was torn into pieces. As expected, he turned into a crow again. Even Yi Jian must admit that Uchiha Shisui's crow substitution technique is indeed very proficient, and even he feels like he can't get started. The place where we will appear next is the front. Yi Jian's perception technique was turned on, and he immediately sensed chakra fluctuations coming from the front. Shish! Uchiha Shisui appeared, and his hair stood on end instantly, because Hazama was already in front of him and slapped him with a palm. The art of golden binding. Uchiha Shisui suddenly raised his head, glared with his right eye and shouted. Yi Jian felt that his body suddenly couldn't move, and Uchiha Shisui took the opportunity to quickly withdraw, forming a seal with his hands like a phantom. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu. Roar! Like a dancing curtain, the raging red flames instantly drowned everything in front of Yi Jian. Ninjutsu. Yi Jian's body was full of sword intent, and he tore through the terrifying flames with one sword strike. But in the midst of the tearing flames, Uchiha Shisui appeared in front of Yi Jian again, and a terrifying fireball struck. Fire release, the great fireball technique. The terrifying fireball instantly flooded Yi Jian, but Uchiha Shisui instantly sensed something was wrong and quickly used the substitute technique to avoid it. The next moment, a bolt of lightning swept across where he was just now, and the terrifying fireball was split in half with a knife. He is worthy of being called the most genius of the Uchiha clan. He reacts really quickly. Looking at Uchiha Shisui who appeared again, Yi Jian grinned, if you still have a trick, feel free to use it. Seeing this, Uchiha Shisui took a long breath, phantom instant technique. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. In just a moment, there were more than a dozen Uchiha Shisui in the field. I'm up! Uchiha Shisui and others shouted loudly, and in an instant, a large number of people rushed towards Hajian, besieging him from all directions. Ninjutsu. Chidori Blade. Yi Jian suddenly drew out his sword, and lightning flashed instantly, turning into terrifying lightning that filled the sky like a vicious snake. What? He saw Uchiha Shisui all over the sky like shadows, the lightning passed through without any hindrance, only one of them screamed in pain and was blown away. Is that the true body? Yi Jian's shadow flashed before he came to the main body and took a photo with his palm. Boom. As the earth trembled, all the Uchiha Shisui around him disappeared. I'm defeated. Uchiha Shisui got up from the ground and looked at Hajime Road. This idea is very good, but it's not completely perfect yet. Uchiha Shisui nodded when he heard this, but I'm a little confused about the final form. If they are all phantoms, they will have no effect except to confuse the enemy. If they are all entities, it will be too wasteful. Half reality and half imaginary is obviously the right choice. Not only can it confuse the enemy, but it can also surprise the enemy. But, Uchiha Shisui looked at Hajian, with deep hope in his eyes. I think this technique should not just be like this, there should be further forms. Do you have any ideas? This is also the reason why Uchiha Shisui peeped at Haburama training Kakashi and the others. Everyone in Konoha today knows that Hajime is quite talented in guiding the development of ninjutsu. So, he wanted to try his luck. Haha, then why do you think I should help you? Yi Jian raised the corner of his mouth. Besides, everyone in the village rejects you, why should I bother you? Uchiha Shisui's eyes suddenly dimmed when he heard this, and he said in a disappointed voice, that's right. But I still want to thank you for your advice just now, Yi Jian-kun. Uchiha Shisui bowed deeply to Haburama and was about to leave. I wonder if you have ever thought about combining reality with reality. What is virtual is real, and what is real is virtual. The enemy thinks it is a real thing, but when he attacks it, it is a phantom. When the enemy thinks it is a phantom and relaxes his vigilance, what attacks him is actually a real thing. After saying that, he waved his hand and said, I didn't give you any instructions. Just pretend you didn't hear what I just said. But Uchiha Shisui felt as if he had been given a slap in the face, and his thoughts suddenly became smoother. Yup, if developed in this way, it would be the final form he wanted. Lord Hajian, the Hokage invites you. On the way home, an Anbu suddenly appeared in front of Yi Jian. Understood. Yi Jian dodged and rushed towards the Hokage building. What's wrong, teacher, what do you want from me? After Yi Jian greeted him respectfully, he asked about the purpose of the third generation. I heard that you have been training Kakashi, Genma and the others these past 7 days. They are becoming more and more aware of being a special Jonin. This is good. Yi Jian wiped his sweat after hearing this. It's not really training, it's just that I gave them some guidance on swordsmanship and they just worked hard on their own. That's why we have such satisfactory results. The third generation smiled. No matter what, you have trained several pillars of Konoha. He added, I heard that you had a battle with Uchiha Shisui just now. What do you think of this child? Yi Jian couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth. The talent is better than mine, he is very polite, and he is a person worth cultivating. But that's right, he is the descendant of Senior Uchiha Kage, so it is not surprising to have such an ability. However, when a person with his personality faces a difficult situation, he may not be able to bear the burden of letting others pay and bear everything on his own. In the end, he will be unable to protect anything. Hearing these words, the third Hokage suddenly showed a hint of thought, you mean? Yi Jian spread his hands and said, I am not qualified to discuss this topic now. This made the third Hokage very uncomfortable all of a sudden. If Yi Jian hadn't been his apprentice, he would have really wanted to capture Yi Jian and go to the intelligence department to read out all the information in his head. Half-talking is really annoying. Not to mention the crucial issue involving the Uchiha clan. Sandai said again, I will keep an eye on the troubles in the village for you. Be careful after you go to the battlefield. I hope that when you come back next time, you will still be alive and kicking. Hearing the care in Sandai's words, Yi Jian hummed twice, don't worry, old man, I'm very afraid of death. Is everything okay? If nothing happens, I'll leave first. Sandai thought for a while and said seriously, is there really nothing we can do about Tsunade's hemophobia? Hearing this topic, Yi Jian also changed his playful smile just now and said solemnly, this is a heart disease. Teacher Tsunade can only step out of the shadows by herself, otherwise, only gods can do it. After hearing this, the third generation couldn't help but sigh. If Tsunade can take the initiative to step out of the shadows, then what's the point? At this moment, the Uchiha clan. Shisui, I heard that you had a fight with Noragama today. What happened? Did you have a conflict with him? Uchiha Fugaku, the leader of the Uchiha clan, frowned and asked. Nora Hazama was a third-generation disciple. If something like this happened, if it were taken seriously, it would be dissatisfaction with the Hokage. This will inevitably make the Uchiha clan, which is already in a bad situation, even more difficult. No, Patriarch, you misunderstood. Uchiha Shisui shook his head. I did fight with him, but there was no conflict. Not only that, I also got his guidance. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but show a hint of surprise. That Noragama actually mentored Uchiha Shisui. Surprising. But looking at the excitement on Uchiha Shisui's face, it was obvious that he wasn't lying either. So he said to Uchiha Shisui, I understand, you can go practice. After Uchiha Shisui left, Uchiha Fugaku said thoughtfully, Noragama may be one of the hopes for our Uchiha clan to get out of this predicament. We have to restrain the Uchiha clan members not to conflict with that guy. A new day. No, Kai, when did you become so strong? This is unscientific. The 7th training ground. A boy who looked a bit like the 3rd Hokage said in confusion. Impossible, this must be my illusion, how could I not even win against you? He attacked again, but was kicked away by Metke 3 or 2 times. No, I want to change my opponent, Xuanjian, you fight me. Unconvinced, the young man changed his opponent, and then suffered another miserable defeat. I'm not telling you, Genma, Kai, what's going on with you? Is Asuma getting weaker, or are you getting stronger? Why can't I even defeat you? The boy is naturally the Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma. Why do your speed, strength, reflexes and other abilities all suddenly increase so much? You won't make up for it behind my back, right? Sarutobi Asuma looked at his friends in front of him and doubted life for the first time. If you had been in Konoha village a few days earlier, you would have known. Metkai chuckled. Yi Jian, he gave us training. Hearing this, Sarutobi Asuma was surprised. What, you mean the old man's apprentice? Then he immediately said, TCH, I won't ask him for training. What's so great, it's not like I can't find other strong people to train me. I'm leaving first. Seeing him like this, Shiranui Genma and the others couldn't help but shake their heads. Sarutobi Asuma just can't deal with Naruto. Not to mention having him trained as a disciple of Hokage. Noragama, is he the guy who is called the most genius in Konoha? I see, just wait and see, Kakashi, I will definitely catch up with you. A few people were not far away in the grass. An Uchiha boy wearing goggles and black broken hair said this. At the same time, in the Hokage building, the pre-war deployment meeting is underway. Everyone, a new war has begun again. The 3rd Hokage said solemnly, the enemies this time are the Iwagakure village and the Kumogakure village. Although we have Sunagakure village as an ally, we are facing attacks from 2 parties at the same time, and the pressure is still considerable. Jiraiya serves as the overall on-site commander and takes care of all matters on both sides of the battlefield. The position of commander-in-chief did not surprise anyone at all. In the direction of Yenian village, Rizu, you should set an example for all major families. In the direction of Kumogakure village, Fugaku, you Uchiha clan will be the vanguard. The heads of the 2 major families whose names were called all responded. The 3 clans of Zu, Deer and Dai are heading towards Union village. The 3rd Hokage arranged the corresponding matters in an orderly manner. Yi Jian, you are special. I hope that while serving as the head of the frontline medical team of Union village, you can also lead a team of 3 people to join the battlefield. How can you do it? After hearing what the Hokage said, everyone present couldn't help but look at Yi Jian. No problem. Yi Jian nodded, but I hope my subordinates can be stronger. It's not that I'm arrogant and look down on people, but war is not a child's play. I don't want to cause tragedy because my subordinates are not strong enough. His words made all the Junin present nod in approval. Don't worry, I will never let you down. The 3rd Hokage smiled, you will definitely be very happy when the time comes. He looked at Namikaze Minato again. Minato, you joined the battlefield of Iwagakure village. You also serve as the team leader and led a 3-person team to perform the mission. Is there any problem? Minato nodded, no problem. He looked at Yi Jian, with a hint of competition in his eyes. Yi Jian, I'm waiting for your good news in Yenian village. Yi Jian completed the task of Yenian village so well not long ago. Although he did well, he was far behind compared to Yi Jian. This naturally made him feel a little competitive. After all, he is a Hokage candidate. If there is no decent credit, who can be convinced in the future? It is good. Yi Jian naturally understood Minato's meaning and smiled. All the Jonin present also showed expectant smiles. A yellow flash, a cold light of Konoha. The competition between them must be exciting. Under the will of the top brass, the entire Konoha was quickly mobilized. Yi Jian finally saw his three subordinates. Old man, you really think highly of me. Looking at the three subordinates in front of him, Yi Jian couldn't help but smile bitterly. Uchiha stops the water. Shiranui Genma, and the future third-generation daughter-in-law, Yuhi Hong. Does a three-person team have to have a girl? Shaking his head, he said with a serious face, everyone, from today until the end of the war, if nothing unexpected happens, you should always be my subordinates. I am a very direct person. When you go to the battlefield, be decisive and decisive. If you delay, I will not be responsible. His cold words made Yuhi Hong shrink back. She immediately thought that these words were meant for her. After all, she is the only genin. I don't have anything else to say. Let's break up. We'll gather and set off at 3 in the afternoon. The three of them left immediately. Yi Jian looked at the grass beside him and said, come out, your hiding skills are too poor. The next moment, an Uchiha boy wearing goggles came out with some anxiety. Uchiha Obito, what do you want from me? Looking at the pure and kind young man in front of him, Yi Jian couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Who would have thought that this innocent and kind boy would turn into a villain who plotted against the entire ninja world in the future? Me. It looked fine from a distance, but when he actually faced Yi Jian, Uchiha Obito felt that all the cells in his body were trembling, and he was speechless at all. It was as if he was facing a Shira, completely out of breath. Yabama, your aura is so terrible. Of course Obito is speechless. At this time, a gentle and sunny breath suddenly approached. It was Minato Namikaze. Teacher, seeing the arrival of Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Obito suddenly seemed to have seen a savior. I want to ask Hazama's special Junin to guide me in developing new techniques. As soon as these words came out, Namikaze Minato was stunned, and then couldn't help but laugh. Yi Jian's head was suddenly covered with black lines. Why do you always want to ask him for guidance in developing new techniques? Do you think he is omnipotent? If I had known this, I wouldn't have guided Kakashi in the first place. Yi Jian, why don't you listen to Obito's thoughts? Maybe you can think of something that can make people realize something. Namikaze Minato originally came to see his subordinate Uchiha Obito, but he didn't expect to encounter this. He couldn't help but be a little curious, what would Obito think? But he was more curious, whether Yi Jian could give guidance. Seeing this, Yi Jian couldn't help but sigh. Well, for Minato Namikaze's sake, plus Obito Uchiha has a good reputation. It also prevents him from causing tragedies like the Nine Tails Rebellion in the future, thus causing more chaos. He admits it. Tell me what you think. Hearing Yi Jian's words, Uchiha Obito was immediately overjoyed. He bowed deeply and politely and said, you see, I already have a clue. I saw him quickly forming a seal, and then a circle of flames instantly released from his body. As for the power, it's pretty average, enough to deal with some genin. Then haven't you already developed it? Yi Jian said, as long as you strengthen your control over form changes, the power of this technique is also considerable. If you can add property changes, it would be even better. But, Uchiha Obito hesitated for a while and then said firmly, I want to develop a ninjutsu that is comparable to Kakashi's Shiden. Namikaze Minato frowned when he heard this and said seriously, Obito, what are you talking about? How can A-level ninjutsu like Shiden be developed casually? He wanted Yi Jian to help Obito, but Obito's request was too much. Yi Jian is not a god. If you can develop A-level ninjutsu casually, is there any justice in that? But Uchiha Obito looked at Hobijian persistently, as if Yejian could definitely help him. Very well, I appreciate your courage. Yi Jian looked at Uchiha Obito and said, then let me give you some inspiration. As he said that, he saw a chakra emerging from around him. Whether you can understand something depends on your kid's understanding. Don't tell me that a member of the Uchiha clan doesn't even have this talent. And the ninjutsu called Hard Vortex Water Blade immediately appeared in his mind. Anyway, the principles are similar, and you can still use them if you change the attributes. Namikaze Minato was stunned. Why did Yi Jian know how to do it again? No need to think about it. He saw the chakra around Yi Jian suddenly spinning rapidly, like a hurricane blade, producing huge tearing force. Namikaze Minato's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately retreated back with Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito felt the smooth and moist feeling on his face. When he touched it, it was blood. He looked again and saw that the surrounding wooden piles and the big tree were covered with various cuts in an instant. Kid, remember this feeling just now, and practice slowly. Yi Jian stopped chakra output. If you don't understand anything, I believe your teacher will guide you. After saying that, he waved his hand to Minato and left. Teacher, this. Uchiha Obito looked at Yi Jian's leaving figure and said in shock, isn't he really a god? He helped me develop a new technique without even thinking. Namikaze Minato patted him on the shoulder, but also sighed with shock. In fact, I felt the same way when he helped develop the Rasengan. He even finished developing the Rasengan as soon as he heard what I said, and even extended it to more applications. It's just that I didn't expect that he would be like this when he helps you develop. He can give you ideas without thinking at all. If there is a god in this world, then I think it is probably him. Hearing this, Uchiha Obito nodded. He also felt that this was the case. Kakashi, wait until you are shocked by me. This time, he wanted to behave well in front of Lin. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Konoha troops rushed towards the border of Fire Country. Yi Jian is positioned as the leader of the first surprise attack team, the medical team, and the leader of the first combat team. Captain, I really want to divide you into 3 people and use them. Shiranui Genma joked that he knew Yi Jian's temper and was usually very easygoing. The other 2 teammates are not familiar with Yi Jian yet, so it is up to him to make them familiar with each other. I can't help it. Who makes me a special Jonin? Yi Jian said helplessly, which surprised Yu Hong, who had always thought Yi Jian was cold and heartless. It seems that this captain is not that difficult to approach. Please be vigilant, the enemy may suddenly arrive. Yi Jian gave instructions and said, Yu Hong, I have read your information, you are a genjutsu ninja, right? Being called suddenly, Yu Hong couldn't help but panic, and quickly replied, yes. Then I guess I have pretty good chakra control. Here's this for you. Even a genjutsu ninja needs some close combat skills. Yi Jian took out a scroll from his ninja bag and said, study hard. If you are surrounded by enemies, I may not always be able to save you in time. These words made Yu Hong feel angry. Just now, my impression of Yi Jian was a little better, but it was immediately shattered again. What? How can he be so weak? Yu Hong took the scroll unhappily, opened it, and opened her mouth in surprise. I saw a line of words written on it, Shunshuriken Jutsu. Captain, this. Facing Yu Hong's opening, Yi Jian said directly, if you think it's valuable, I don't mind recycling it. Yu Hong immediately hid the scroll and complained, how can you give something back to others? Yi Jian curled his lips and said, he doesn't mean what he says. 2 days later, the army arrived at the front line at the border of the country of fire. Hurry up and rest, the reconnaissance team is on alert. According to relevant intelligence, the enemy has already crossed the kingdom of Tang, and may be watching us secretly. We must not relax our vigilance and exploration work, do you understand? As one of the battlefield commanders here, Nara Shikaku issued the order. The army immediately followed his instructions and began to enter their respective posts in an orderly manner. Night fell quickly, and everyone in Konoha who had been running around for a few days soon fell asleep. I wonder what enemies we will encounter this time. Looking at the attribute panel in front of him, Yi Jian was really filled with emotion. Host, Noragama. Age, 14. Ninja combat power, Elite Jonin. Chakra amount, 100. Cage level 90. Items, Kunai 55, Explosion Talisman 90, Steel Wire 50, Healing Food Pills 10, Physical Strength Pills 10. Medical Ninjutsu, Palm Immortal Creation, Palm Immortal Destruction, Palm Immortal Technique. Ninjutsu, Shuriken Technique, instant shuriken technique, shadow clone technique, and great power technique. Thunder release. Thunder strike armor, Chidori blade, thunder clone, Kirin, thunder kill from the sky. Swordsmanship. Willow leaf shunwu, ninja swordsmanship. Illusion. The art of darkness. Physique. Incomplete immortal body. A few months ago, he was just a weak medical ninja. And now, he is already an important target that all major ninja villages need to pay attention to. The role of strength is so important. And compared to the battle that killed Ebizo, Yi Jian is undoubtedly stronger now. In the past few days, he finally developed the amplifying effect of Yang Dun on Lei Dun. This also allowed him to grow rapidly in all attributes of his body in the lightning armor mode. Also because of Yang escape, his incomplete immortal body has been greatly increased. The amount of chakra is terrifying than the shadow level, and the quality is also on par with the shadow level. The power of ninjutsu related to thunder release has skyrocketed. Not to mention that he signed in a few days ago in Gaden, S level, thunder escape ninjutsu, Kirin. One move and the shadow level will be disabled. In addition, he has worked hard to practice the ninja sword skills and the teleportation technique in the past few days. Now he is almost invincible below the shadow level. In the state of Baihao Jutsu, he even felt that he could fight against the third Raikage. He walked out of the tent to get some air, but suddenly he couldn't help but frown. Why did it suddenly get foggy? This is not a good sign. The surroundings were completely white, and even if the reconnaissance team recruited were from the Hyuga clan, their sight would be blocked. This undoubtedly increases the difficulty of their investigation, and they are likely to be attacked by the enemy. Just when he had this idea, a rapid siren sounded in the distance. Enemy attack. The harsh sound suddenly woke up all the ninjas. Konoha fool guy, so what if you guys find out? Kill me. In an instant, the voices of Kumogakure ninjas were heard from all directions. Under the cover of night and fog, the panic in Konoha instantly increased. Team leader, Uchiha Shisui and Shiranui Genma gathered around Habarama in an instant. Yuhi Hong arrived slowly immediately. Facing Yi Jian's cold gaze, she said a little ashamedly, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be late." Although she was panting, she said firmly, "I will not hold you back." Yi Jian nodded. "We can go faster next time." After saying that, he gave each of the three a physical recovery pill and a bottle of healing potion. When the enemy attacks, they will inevitably attack the medical team. Let's go support them. The importance of the medical team goes without saying. The three of them had no objection to Yi Jian's idea. Immediately, Yi Jian rushed towards the medical team not far away. Lord Yi Jian. When Yi Jian arrived, the guards near the medical team had already formed a tight defense under his shadow clone organization. A chunin from the Nara clan came over and said, "Please give the battle order." As the leader of the medical team, Yi Jian has the most power on the battlefield, second only to the commander. It makes sense for him to take command. Hinata, Uchiha, and Nara each form a team. The Hyuga clan is responsible for exploration, the Nara is responsible for containment, and the Uchiha is responsible for the final attack. Another person will come out to report the situation on our side to the headquarters. Yi Jian said solemnly, "We must protect the medical team and we must not suffer any losses. Everyone, I am always with you." Hearing this, everyone immediately responded enthusiastically, "Yes." Who is that in Yi Jian? Hokage disciple, medical genius, or the legendary Konoha Hangwang, whose strength and ability are absolutely reliable. It's absolutely reassuring to fight someone like that. Even the ninjas of the Uchiha clan could not find a reason not to cooperate. Not to mention there are many people here who have fought with Yi Jian on the front line of Sand Hidden Village. The captain is so prestigious. Yuhi Hong couldn't help but feel shocked when she saw the enthusiastic response from everyone. Coming. In just 1 minute, a ninja from the Hyuga clan was heard shouting. The corresponding aura immediately appeared in Yi Jian's perception. Wait a minute, what's going on with such terrifying chakra? Yi Jian's pupils suddenly shrank, and an extremely majestic chakra aura suddenly appeared in his perception. Even he was as small as a small boat in front of him. Even Yi Jian couldn't help but be shocked. Is there such a terrifying chakra in this world? He immediately realized what was happening and shouted, "Jinchuriki is approaching, everyone, be careful." Then, regardless of the shock of everyone present, he rushed towards the direction where the Jinchuriki's breath came from. Next moment, right in front of the three-person team in the northwest corner of the medical team's camp, a figure exuding a violent aura suddenly appeared. What? The three-person team couldn't react at all and could only watch the enemy's attack in front of them fall on themselves. It's over, the person said. Is it? Yi Jian's voice sounded. Oh, the person who came was hit hard and flew out, and the three people in Konoha hurriedly evacuated. Wind Release Ninja, dispel this fog. This fog affects combat too much. Just as Yi Jian was shouting, a thunder-like figure appeared behind him again, Thunder Release Sibin Guansho. The extreme piercing force came, and even the hairs on the leaves stood on end. Fixing technique, Yi Jian shouted, and the figure behind him suddenly froze. Yi Jian suddenly drew his sword and turned around, ninja swordsmanship, Chidori blade. Boom! The violent explosion knocked both of them away. Wind Escape Gale Art. Immediately, a Konoha ninja released his wind escape to disperse the fog. But the number of enemies revealed in front of everyone once again made Shiranui Genma and others gasp. They saw that 800 Kumo ninjas had surrounded them. We only have over 100 people on our side, so how can we be our opponents? Everyone couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. With such strength and still so young. In the distance, the man who had just fought with Yi Jian spoke, looking at Yi Jian's tone and confirming, "You are Konoha Hangwang, right?" Yi Jian looked at this man with silver hair and a cold face. The right side of his face was covered by a long triangle of purple eyeshadow, and the corresponding message suddenly popped up in his heart. Kumogakur Murakujanen, Fukai, the third-generation Eight-Tails Jinchuriki. The fourth-generation Jinchuriki Rabbi's enlightenment teacher, the fourth-generation Reikage's cousin. His eyes were sharp and he said, "I didn't expect that the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki actually knows me. I'm glad to meet you." But after hearing their names, the ninjas on both sides couldn't help but turn pale at the same time. What? The cold light of Konoha. The Cloud ninjas' voices were trembling, and they couldn't help but take a few steps back. It's actually a Jinchuriki. With such an enemy, how can we be our opponents? The Konoha ninjas are even more terrified. Those are war weapons. How can these people look at them? Not to mention that their military strength itself is at an extreme disadvantage. A tough enemy is coming. Yi Jian said this, and his body was immediately covered by manic thunder and lightning. What's going on? Why does he know the Reikage's technique? Moreover, his aura is no worse than Reikage-sama's. Looking at the thunder armor on Yi Jian's body, the Cloud ninja's expressions changed again with horror. When Fukai saw this scene, he couldn't help but shuddered. "It seems like it's just like the rumors, you really know this technique." As he spoke, red chakra emerged from his body, "Then let me try." But at this moment, Yi Jian's voice sounded from behind him, "You talk so much nonsense." Facing Yi Jian who appeared behind him, Flay couldn't help but be surprised. "It's so fast, not much worse than Reikage. In this case, I can't keep you." Affected by the tailed beast's chakra, Fukai's mood became much more violent. Several chakra arms were like sharp shadows, grabbing Yi Jian from all directions. Thousand Bird Blade. I saw a flash of lightning quickly, and the next moment, all the chakra arms were torn apart in an instant. What? You actually tore Master Fukai's chakra arm directly? That being, which is harder than steel, could be cut off so easily. The Cloud ninjas couldn't help but feel horrified. Is this the cold light of Konoha? It's too strong. Deu Spiral Pill. Before Fukai had any chance to breathe, a washbasin-sized ball of light hit Fukai. Boom. Like an earthquake, the ground exploded with a spiderweb-like crack. Isn't that right? Fukai actually fell into a disadvantage. The Cloud ninjas looked at this scene and spoke in disbelief. That is the most powerful weapon in their Union village. Only the Reikage can suppress it. Could it be said that this leaf is as powerful as the Reikage? They are unbelievable. As for the Konoha ninjas, many of them really knew for the first time that Yi Jian's strength was actually so terrifying. He actually suppressed the Jinchuriki. He is worthy of being called the man of Konoha Hangwang. But the next moment, a figure of lightning quickly exited from the dust curtain, followed by a fierce red long tail that chased out. Roar! An extremely ferocious monster tore through the dust curtain and appeared in front of everyone. It came with a heavy momentum, and the surrounding earth exploded violently and sank. Puff! The air was shattered by this roar. Many people felt as if their heads had been suddenly hit hard. Their vision suddenly went black and blood started to flow from their noses. Before they could react, a huge figure arrived in front of them. Boom! A large group of Konoha ninjas had no time to react and were swept away, vomiting blood. It's over. The Chunin of the Nara clan was in despair, and the giant palm in front of him didn't even give him a chance to form a seal to block it. The imaginable pain did not come. When he opened his eyes, he saw that he was already far away, and Yi Jian saved him. Master Yi Jian, thank you, be careful. Before he could finish saying thank you, the Nara clan Chunin couldn't help but scream again. Behind Yi Jian, Fukai, who transformed into a half-tailed beast, had arrived again. As if Yi Jian had no time to react, he actually turned around and punched away. Seeing this scene, the Cloud Ninjas suddenly laughed jokingly. We admit that you are indeed powerful, and you can actually force Fukai to enter the half-tailed beast state. But do you think that because you can use Raikage's ninjutsu, you can fight tailed beasts like Raikage-sama? Idiot, just wait until you are shattered to pieces. Except for Raikage, no one can stand up to the half-tailed beast Fukai. Everyone in Konoha closed their eyes and couldn't bear to watch the tragic scene that followed. Boom! But after this fist exchange, all the expressions on the faces of the young ninjas froze. How is this possible? A curly-haired Cloud Ninja broke into a cold sweat in shock, widened his eyes and said, "Is this guy the reincarnation of a tailed beast?" In their eyes, the eight-tailed Jinchuri Rifukai, who was extremely powerful in his half-tailed beast state, was knocked out like a sandbag by Yi Jian's punch. Boom! Just like a super high-velocity artillery shell smashing into a mountain, the ground roared violently, creating a large cracked crater that was over 10 meters long. This scene is extremely shocking. That was the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, a collection of destructive power. Was it just blown away? What about the Jinchuriki? Yi Jian looked indifferently ahead. That depends on whether the Jinchuriki is strong or not. Tailed beasts are indeed invincible and terrifying monsters for ordinary ninjas. But for film level, that's not necessarily the case. If Kurabi, a perfect Jinchuriki, was in front of him at this moment, it would be impossible for Yi Jian to deal with him so easily. Unfortunately, he is Fukai. Based on Yi Jian's current immortal body, using the technique of huge power in the lightning armor mode, the power is more than terrifying at all. It's not impossible to beat up a flying-tailed beast, let alone a Jinchuriki. It is good. Seeing this scene, everyone in Konoha couldn't help but cheer. Shisui, Genma, stop watching the fun, come on, let them see the strength of our Konoha ninjas too. After hearing these words, Uchiha Shisui rushed towards Kumo Ninja without any hesitation. We're going to. Upon seeing this, the Chunin of the Nara clan said, according to Master Hazama's assignment just now, a team of 3 will fight against the enemy together. In an instant, many ninjas on the scene rushed towards the Cloud Ninjas. You fool, how dare you underestimate us? You guy, who are you looking down on? The Cloud Ninjas were also angry. A mere 100 Konoha ninjas actually dared not to take them seriously and actually rushed forward. Excessive. At this moment, Konoha camp. Nara Shikaku, Uchiha Fugaku, aren't you worried about your medical team at all? Their opponent is the future 4th generation Raikage, and today's I. The Raikages have had the same name for generations, and I hopes to prove through this war that he has the ability to inherit this name. Why worry? Nara Shikaku looked at I in front of him, and said with full confidence on his face, there is Konoha Hangwang in our medical team. Who would have thought that after hearing this, I suddenly smiled playfully. I know that Konoha's cold light is indeed very strong, but what if I say that we sent out a Jinchuriki? Nara Shikaku's expression suddenly changed when he heard this. What? Jinchuriki? No, go and support Yi Jian, Fugaku. Even though he knew that Yi Jian had killed Ebizo not long ago. And killed a dozen sand ninjas elites at the same time. But, according to the information given to him by the Hokage, Yi Jian was able to kill Ebizo because of the use of poison. But the Jinchuriki won't be affected by this. And the Jinchuriki is more powerful than Ebizo. Under such circumstances, how could Yi Jian be the Jinchuriki's opponent? Yi Jian might be able to escape, but the medical team is definitely doomed. This is absolutely an unimaginable and heavy loss for Konoha. In times of war, without medical ninjas, it would be as fatal as being cut off from supplies. Seeing Nara Shikaku like this, I suddenly laughed proudly. Why do you think I'm here? I laughed proudly. Today, your Konoha army will be completely lost at the border of the Land of Fire. The next time we meet, maybe it will be at the surrender ceremony, ha ha ha. Ai's words suddenly spread among many Konoha ninjas. Suddenly a huge panic broke out. The word Jinchuriki is extremely intimidating to ordinary ninjas. This is an enemy that is simply impossible to defeat. The fear of tailed beasts is deep in their souls. Not to mention that the medical team will now be completely annihilated. This completely cuts off their escape route. Kill! I shouted loudly, wearing thunder armor, and rushed towards Uchiha Fugaku. In the entire battlefield, he was the only one worthy of Ai's attention. This is a powerful but cautious opponent. If he can defeat him, he will definitely prove to Union Village that he has the strength to inherit Ai's name. Mo Uni, come together. Ai not only wanted to do it himself, but also called on a young ninja next to him. Originally, Nara Shikaku didn't think anything was wrong. But when the cold chakra unique to the tailed beast emerged from Mo Uni's body, he suddenly shouted as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, "It's the Jinchuriki again." Before he finished speaking, Mo Uni's face with a cruel smile was already rapidly enlarging in his eyes. Go away. Akamichi Choza on the side saw Nara Shikaku stunned, and quickly made a seal, partial doubling technique. A huge fist punched through the air and crashed into the incoming Mo Uni. Yamanaka Kaiichi immediately pulled Nara Shikaku away and shouted to him, "Shikaku, where is the time to be stunned now? How can you be so derelict in your duties as a commander? Since we cannot know the situation in the medical team for the time being, your duty now is to lead everyone to defeat the enemy in front of you. You have to believe that there are auspicious people and heavenly signs in the leaves." Yamanaka Haiichi's deafening words made Nara Shikaku wake up immediately. His eyes immediately looked at Mo Uni, who was suppressing Akamichi Choza in front, and loudly said to the Konoha ninjas on the entire battlefield, "Everyone, what about the Jinchuriki? Does it have to be invincible? As long as we strengthen our confidence, there is no enemy we can't defeat. Nora Hazama is a disciple of Lord Hokage, will he definitely lose to the Jinchuriki?" Nara Shikaku waved his hand vigorously and said resolutely, "Never. I, Shikaku Nara, do not believe that such a talented Nora Habama did not fall on the front line of Sunagakure village when he was still very weak. Now that he has become stronger, he has faded away on the Kumogakure front line. There is no such reason." Hearing his loud and powerful words, the Konoha ninja who had panicked because of Ai's words suddenly became determined and shouted, "That's right." Just then, a Konoha ninja rushed over at high speed and shouted in a voice that could be heard throughout the battlefield, "Urgent report. As for the medical team, Master Hazama has organized a counterattack. Lord Hazama is dueling the eight-tailed Jinchuriki and has the upper hand." As soon as these last words came out, the morale of the entire Konoha ninja on the battlefield was suddenly shaken. Oh! Nara Shikakuzu's eyes widened in shock, that guy is actually so powerful. Then he couldn't help but laugh louder. "Everyone, kill." Everyone in Konoha gathered to respond. After hearing this, I couldn't believe it at all. How is it possible? That guy can suppress Fukai. What a joke. To him, this was like a big joke. In the entire Union Village, only his old man has this strength. He counts half. The medical team is here. Roar. After all, Fukai was the one who could control the eight tails. After being knocked away by Yijien's punch, he immediately realized that he was no match for Yijien in terms of strength. In this case, change tactics. Since you can't win with strength, use speed. Are you going to compete for speed? The lightning on Yijien's body suddenly became more dazzling, and his perception skills were fully activated. He immediately sensed the terrifying chakra movement in Fukai's body, and guessed his intentions from it. Then let me show you what it means to crush in all directions. The moment the words fell, hearing only a violent tearing sound of air, Yijien was already in front of Fukai. This shocked Fukai, who was just about to leave. Boom! A terrifying crater suddenly exploded where Fukai was standing just now. Fukai stepped back just over a meter, but he was even more horrified. It doesn't matter if you have such terrifying power, but you can actually control such terrifying power so freely. What kind of monster is this? Just as he was thinking this, he suddenly saw Yi Jian raising his head and smiling at him. A strong sense of ominousness suddenly arose in his heart, and a long tail shot out of the air behind him. But, ninjutsu, Chidori blade, Yi Jian shouted loudly, as if he was swinging a thunder hammer, and everyone on the battlefield instantly heard a loud sound that resounded through their souls. Fukai was blasted away again, leaving a deep mark in the air. How is this possible? Are you kidding me? Fukai is no match. The Cloud Ninjas looked at this scene and were horrified. What the hell is this monster? They have only ever seen the Raikage be so terrifying. But looking at Yi Jian in front of him, his not-so-old age and his terrifying record made people feel a strong sense of unreality. No, you fool, death to me. But beside them, the sound of violent shouts from their companions came. The Uchiha Shisui he saw was holding a short blade, but he was like a tiger, coming in and out. He was surrounded by all the Kumogakure village Chunin, and he couldn't do anything about it. Next to Uchiha Shisui, Shiranui Genma also wielded fierce swordsmanship, transforming into a cold Shira, and one after another Kumo ninja fell in their hands. Even Kurenai Yuhi, who looks very weak, can actually fight back and forth with Chunin. It really looks like Master Yi Jian back then. A special Junin of Konoha's scar felt this way. Especially Uchiha Shisui's decisive and crisp swordsmanship. Just looking at the back, he really looks like the original Hajime. In this case, brothers, we can't lag behind. If we say it, others will think that we are not even as good as our juniors. We're going to. Scar's special Junin raised his arms and shouted, immediately causing all Konoha ninjas to respond. Are all the younger generations of Konoha so evil? Upon seeing this, a Kumogakure village Jonin gritted his teeth and said, and immediately his face was filled with terrifying murderous intent, we must not keep it. You good sons of Cloud Ninja, kill me. The two sides collided fiercely again, extremely fiercely. As for the medical ninjas, under the care of Yi Jianying's clone, everything was fine. Anyone who doesn't have eyesight and wants to make a sneak attack cannot escape the sword of the shadow clone. Roar! After Fukai was blasted away, he immediately grabbed the ground and stopped, and then rushed forward again. He burst out with more violent chakra, and some exoskeletons appeared on his body, so fast that only an afterimage remained. Lei Plow Hot Knife, Ninja Sword Technique, Willow Leaf Shunwu, Chidori Blade. Both of them shouted at the same time and used a very powerful terrifying blow. Boom! Just like two mountains colliding together, the earth suddenly let out an overwhelmed wail and violently exploded into a large piece of debris. Boom boom boom. The ground continued to explode and dent as the two men continued to collide with each other. Fukai's majestic and cold chakra, and Yi Jian's hard and condensed chakra, actually collided to create the feeling of the end of the world. The surroundings were completely shattered, the air was blurred, and the breathtaking power was constantly vented out. Is this a battle between masters? We have no chance of resisting. The Konoha ninja and Kumo ninja looked at this scene and thought in horror at the same time. But suddenly, Fukai's body actually erupted with more violent chakra, and the air was blown into particles and trembled continuously. Konoha Hangwang, go to hell. He saw that Yi Jian was directly suppressed by him, and the ground beneath his feet exploded. Fukai grinned proudly and said, do you know the terror of Jinchuriki? He raised his right arm, and the substantial bones formed instantly, and shocking thunder and lightning emerged from his hand. If you can die from this move, you are not at a loss. Lei Plow Hot Knife. In just a moment of tearing acceleration, all of Yi Jian's defense lines collapsed completely, and a big head rose into the sky, leaving only Yi Jian's headless body, which fell backwards. Quiet. All the Konoha ninjas stood there blankly as if the pause button had been pressed. No way. Dead. Yuhi Hong's face was horrified and her voice trembled. This is not true and I don't accept it. Shiranui Genma screamed in collapse. He didn't believe what he saw. He must be under an illusion. Ha ha ha, okay, I finally solved this troublesome guy. Fukai is mighty. The Cloud Ninjas were inexplicably ecstatic, showing extremely cruel expressions at every moment. Die. At this time, when the Konoha ninjas were all confused, Uchiha Shisui's calm words sounded, you may have forgotten what Konoha Hangwang is best at. Just as he said, the next moment, the decapitated body of Yi Jian suddenly turned into a ball of thunder and lightning, shooting straight into the sky. Yi Jian's voice also sounded above the entire battlefield. You all remember my terrifying speed, but you seem to have forgotten that I am also very good at the substitution technique and thunder escape. The Arikumo ninja immediately pointed to the sky above Fukai in shock. It's up there. Everyone looked around immediately and saw Yi Jian quickly forming seals with his hands and then pointing to the sky. Thunder release. Fukai yelled ferociously, do you think I will let you release ninjutsu? He stepped heavily on the ground and rushed to Yi Jian like a phantom, his right arm once again accumulating terrifying thunder and lightning. But Yi Jian suddenly shook his head and laughed out loud. Self-destruction. Everyone didn't understand what it meant. But the next moment, they suddenly understood. The sky he saw had turned pitch black at some point, and a godlike unicorn tore through the clouds and stuck its head downwards. Under that inviolable majesty, the terrifying Fukai is as small as a kitten. Following Yi Jian's loud shout, everyone felt a sudden sting in front of their eyes, and all the scenes were completely replaced by white lightning, leaving only a soul-rending roar that resounded in all directions. Boom! It was like the end was coming, and amid the dull roar of the earth, rolling thunder flooded everything in Fukai's area. It wasn't until a long time later that the movement calmed down. Just what happened? The Cloud Ninja looked forward. Not far in front of them, Fukai was lying in a ruin-like pit, motionless. What? Fukai was defeated. Seeing this scene, the young ninja felt like he was struck by thunder. No, that guy hasn't been defeated yet. Just as he said, Fukai suddenly stood up, with his head hanging down and his arms hanging straight. His flesh and blood were as bloody as a zombie, except for Lord Rakage. You are the first one who can kill me. Someone forced into such a desperate situation. As soon as the words fell, a heavy momentum descended, making everyone feel like they couldn't breathe. Fukai was once again enveloped in violent red chakra. The eyes were hollow, and a white exoskeleton appeared on his head and body, making him look like a monster. Boom! Without any movement at all, the ground beneath his feet exploded. You are qualified to die by this move. After saying that, he had lost all will. 6 tails emerged from behind him, with the power to destroy the world. Seeing this scene, Yukumogakur Murakami's expression changed drastically. No, Fukai has entered the second stage of half-tailed beast transformation. In this state, there is no distinction between friend and foe, and his strength is several times greater than before. Only Rakage-sama can control him. He immediately told all the Cloud Ninjas to stay back, don't get close to him. But as soon as he finished speaking, Fukai turned into a fierce red light and flashed past them. What? The strong wind he brought up blew away countless ninjas along the way. Only special Junin can still stand. Now, even a strong man like you, Konoha Hangwang, can only drink in hatred. Looking at Fukai's figure, the Kumogakur Jonin said in his heart. You actually took one strike from me and the Kirin, can you still continue to attack? Yi Jian drew his sword and blocked it. The speed of Fukai was ridiculously fast, but it just felt like a mountain peak was hitting it at high speed, and he couldn't resist it at all. Not good. Yi Jian was horrified and immediately used the substitute technique to escape. But when he appeared again, a huge fist had already landed in front of him, making Yi Jian's pupils dilate. Puff! Yi Jian felt that all the bones in his body were broken in an instant, and a large mouthful of blood spurted out as his internal organs were displaced. Half-tailed beast transformation is obviously only close to the shadow level strength. But after you hit me with a Kirin shot, you can attack me with 6 tails again. Are Jinchuriki so resistant to being beaten? As Yi Jian flew backwards, he was still horrified in his heart, but aren't the strength of these 6 tails a bit too strong? They are almost on par with the powerful Cage. No wonder the Cloud Ninjas say that only the Rakage can take care of them. It is indeed true. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.